Chapter 132. There were only 2 waiters in the restaurant, both of whom were humans. They were busy serving the dishes and didn't come over to greet Long Houchen. Long Houchen strode towards the golden devil bird. She walked to the dining table and gently knocked on the table. The golden devil bird was stunned. He was having a great time eating and drinking, so he wasn't in a good mood when he was suddenly interrupted. However, when he looked up and saw Long Houchen's slightly raised face, he was shocked. It should be pointed out that Long Houchen disguised himself as a moon devil. Even the moon devils wouldn't be able to recognize him, let alone this golden devil bird. He had purple eyes and an extremely handsome face. These were the characteristics of the moon devils. Looking at Long Houchen's cold eyes, he hurriedly stood up and asked, "You are?" Long Houchen raised his hand and waved his moon devil viscount token in front of the golden devil bird. He said in a deep voice, "Come with me." Seeing the token, the golden devil bird's last trace of doubt disappeared. He hurriedly stood up and followed Long Houchen out of the restaurant. Many demons saw this scene, but they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Although they didn't see Long Houchen's appearance, they could imagine what kind of existence he was if even a big shot like the golden devil bird was summoned. After leaving the restaurant, Long Houchen stopped at the entrance. The golden devil bird asked carefully, "Lord Viscount, what are your orders?" "Come here." Long Houchen waved at him coldly. The golden devil bird hurriedly went to Long Houchen's side. He was even feeling heartache for his food and prayed that Long Houchen's orders were simple so that he could finish his food. Otherwise, those guys would definitely benefit from it. A hint of coldness appeared in Long Houchen's eyes as he looked at the submissive golden demon bird. He raised his right hand and pressed it on the demon bird's shoulder. "Do you know your crime?" "Ah." The golden demon bird raised its head in shock and looked at Long Houchen. Right at this moment the alarm in his heart suddenly rose, but it was already too late. Long Houchen's right hand grabbed his thick neck like an iron pincer. The cold sword intent flashed and disappeared. The pupils of the golden bird demon's eyes dilated in shock. Was Long Houchen's right hand that easy to touch? That was the aria of the goddess of light. A sword intent pierced into the depths of the golden demon bird's brain, crushing it to pieces. He died instantly. He couldn't be more dead, but he didn't even have the chance to scream. A Type 6 powerhouse fell in the hands of Long Houchen just like that. This had nothing to do with strength. The key was that Long Houchen was too similar to the moon devils. His cloak spread out slightly, blocking the view from the other side of the street. Eternal Melody's golden light flickered, and the golden demon bird's corpse was quietly kept into his bag. Without any hesitation, Long Houchen turned around. He was going to support Lin Xian and Han Yu. Long Houchen's side ended the battle without attracting any attention. However, his companions weren't so peaceful. Noon was a good time for Long Houchen and the rest to move. This was because it was mealtime for the demons. Demons were different from humans, they only ate twice a day. This was especially so for the high-level demons. Therefore, in the general class Monster Hunt 64, everyone's goal was to eat. Although Lin Xian's looks couldn't be compared to Long Houchen, he had no problem pretending to be a normal moon devil. Furthermore, his target was much easier to find than Long Houchen. This was because this golden demon bird was eating at a roadside stall. From this, it could be seen that although the demons were strong, they were far behind the humans in terms of social economy and civilization. After all, they were outsiders. In the Temple League, it was almost impossible for a Type 6 powerhouse to eat at a roadside stall. The golden demon bird's meal was simple. It was a huge pot with some unknown meat stew inside. It would toss in some minced meat and cook it before taking it out to eat. This person was accompanied by 4 great bird devils who were eating with him. Lin Xian and Han Yu looked at each other, and Han Yu nodded. A faint blue light flashed in Lin Xian's eyes, and immediately after, a loud and clear phoenix cry resounded through the street. Why were spiritual stoves powerful? because spiritual stoves had an advantage that normal skills couldn't compare to, and that was instant release. Furthermore, almost all spiritual stoves' abilities would increase in power as the user grew stronger. These were the reasons why spiritual stoves were powerful. When the huge blue phoenix charged at the golden demon bird, all the demons on the street were dumbfounded. The golden demon bird was a Type 6 powerhouse after all, and immediately reacted when he sensed something was wrong. He pulled with both hands, each pulling a great demon bird. At the same time, he channeled his spiritual energy, and blinding lightning wrapped around his body. However, the blue phoenix's arrival was too sudden, and that was all he could do. A cold smile appeared on Lin Xion's face, and the blue light in his eyes grew brighter. The blue fire phoenix suddenly rose a few notches into the air, and then abruptly dropped down. It actually completed a short and rapid ascent in the air, then a dive. Boom! A huge blue pillar of fire shot into the sky, and the blue phoenix returned. Within the flames, 4 great demon birds were instantly carbonized. The golden demon bird screamed, and its body twitched violently. Its huge body was almost instantly charred black. The terrifyingly high temperature was not something that his body could withstand. Even the Type 8 Zombie King was forced back by the blue phoenix's attack. At this time, a tall figure quietly appeared behind the golden demon bird that was struggling in the heart flame. A golden red light flashed, and the golden demon bird's struggle immediately stopped. With its head cut off, the tall figure flicked his foot, and the golden demon bird's head shot towards Lin Xion like a blue cannonball. A ball of blue flames rose, and instantly wrapped around the golden demon bird's head. The flames were extinguished, and the head was stored in the storage magic tool. Lin Xion turned to leave, and Han Yu quickly followed. In the blink of an eye, the two disappeared into an alley. From Lin Xion's attack to the end of the battle, the entire process was completed in a few breaths. The assassination process was clean, and he quickly returned after it was over. At this time, Lin Xion's face was extremely pale, and his fists were clenched tightly. His body was even trembling slightly, but he gritted his teeth and endured. Under Han Yu's protection, he headed towards the caravan. After constant training in seclusion, his ability to withstand the spirit stove's backlash had become stronger. The blue fire phoenix spirit stove's backlash was different from the samsara spirit stove. The samsara spirit stove's backlash was almost impossible to resist, but the blue fire phoenix spirit stove's backlash was a kind of training for Lin Xion. By constantly trying and experiencing it, his body's resistance to the spirit stove would become stronger. This was the only way to promote the spirit stove's future evolution. Just as Lin Xion finished his battle, Sima Xian also finished his mission. Sima Xian faced more enemies than Lin Xion and Han Yu. 6 great birds and 1 golden bird were eating together in the restaurant. Sima Xian wouldn't act like Long Haochen and trick the golden bird into coming out. After confirming that the target was in the restaurant, he took out the evolved light vigor pill from his storage magic tool. The dark golden light vigor pill emitted an oppressive and terrifying aura. The thick chain had also extended from 30 feet to 15 feet. The huge metal ball whistled through the air as it hurtled towards the golden demon bird. The moment Sima Xian entered, this gold demon bird sensed that something was wrong. The killing intent from his body was too thick. Thus, when Sima Xian attacked, the golden bird leaped up in an attempt to dodge the light vigor pill's attack. At the same time, a golden lightning spear appeared in his hand. The 6 great birds also flew out and attacked Sima Xian from different directions. Sima Xian shook the thick metal chain in his right hand. The light vigor pill was lifted up and smashed towards the golden bird. This was a restaurant, after all. The golden bird didn't have the space to fly. It could only turn its body. At the same time, a golden lightning shot out from its spear towards the light vigor pill. However, when the golden bird's innate lightning landed on the light vigor pill, it instantly disappeared as if it had been devoured. Immediately afterward, the golden demonic bird felt a mountain-like force descend upon its body. Helpless, it could only use its spear to block. However, at this time, the 6 great birds had already reached Sima Xian's side and stabbed at him with their spears. "Go to hell!" Sima Xian roared. A huge white pillar of light suddenly erupted from his body and enveloped the 6 great birds along with their weapons. A terrifying scene appeared. The 6 great birds were instantly ignited by the milky white flames. They screamed miserably and fell to the ground. Their spears did pierce Sima Xian's body, but they only pierced through his cloak. This was the 6th-rank defensive skill of a Saint Cardinal. It consumed a lot of spiritual energy, but it had a powerful purification effect. In order to end the battle quickly, Sima Xian directly used this powerful skill. At the same time he killed the 6 great birds, the golden bird was already in close contact with the light vigor pill. Boom! Without any suspense, the spear was shattered and the great bird was sent flying. What was even more terrifying was that the light vigor pill flew along with the golden bird. It directly smashed through the roof of the restaurant. However, the golden bird wasn't sent flying. Instead, it seemed to be stuck to the light vigor pill. One could clearly see the light vigor pill shrouded in purple light. Next, 3 loud explosions sounded as 3 balls of purple light exploded on the golden bird's body. After that, there were no more golden birds. A golden magic crystal with lightning curling around it was absorbed by the light vigor pill. Sima Xian pulled the chain and the light vigor pill returned to his hand. He then turned around and left. However, not even a speck of ash was left of the golden bird. This was the terrifying power of the combination of the legend rank light vigor pill and the purple godly thunder spiritual stove. Crushing, absorption, and triple explosion. In terms of explosive power, as long as Long Haochen didn't accumulate power and Kai'er didn't use the Samsara spiritual stove, no one could surpass Sima Xian in terms of explosive power in the Commander tier Monster Hunt 64. Even Lin Xian's Blue Fire Phoenix spiritual stove couldn't compare to the full power of the light vigor pill. In this operation, the one who fought the longest was Wang Yuanyuan. Wang Yuanyuan's fighting style was similar to Sima Xian's. After discovering her target, she raised the Divine Soul Shield and charged. However, the golden devil bird she was facing was a little different from the other golden devil bird. The wings on its back emitted a dark golden luster. After seeing this golden bird, Wang Yuanyuan memorized its position. Then, she turned around to hide herself and took out the Divine Soul Shield. The Space Gate spiritual stove exploded. With a flash of silver light, she appeared behind that golden devil bird and swung the Divine Giant Soul Shield, which was inlaid with 4 hollow silver crystals. From Wang Yuanyuan's perspective, this explosive attack could probably break the golden bird's shield in half. However, this special golden bird's reaction was extremely fast. The moment Wang Yuanyuan appeared behind it and launched an attack, the golden bird's wings suddenly shot out and collided with the Divine Soul Shield. Moreover, it didn't try to take the attack head-on. Instead, it borrowed the Divine Soul Shield's powerful attack power to leap out. Crack, crack. The golden bird let out a blood-curdling screech. Its wings were completely broken. The Divine Soul Shield still managed to hit its body. Bluish-purple blood with golden specks of light spurted out of its mouth. However, as its body flew out, it also took out a lightning spear that flickered with a dark golden color. Wang Yuanyuan was slightly stunned. He actually didn't die? However, she obviously wouldn't stop at this time. Her spiritual wings suddenly unfurled and her figure flashed. She rushed in front of the golden bird and slashed out with the Divine Soul Shield. The golden bird was at a disadvantage because Wang Yuanyuan's attack was too sudden. The Space Gate spiritual stove's teleportation made it unable to effectively defend against the previous attack. Moreover, as a golden bird, its wings were completely broken. It couldn't fly, so its strength was greatly reduced. Ding! The lightning spear stabbed the side of the Divine Soul Shield. The tyrannical lightning's spiritual energy actually made Wang Yuanyuan's body numb. If it was her in the past, she would have lost the connection of her attack. However, the current Wang Yuanyuan's external spiritual energy was even more tyrannical than the golden bird in front of her. How could a little numbness restrict her? The Divine Soul Shield's attack didn't change. At the same time, it slightly tilted up and bounced off the golden bird's lightning spear. Her left foot stepped forward and the shield's surface directly slammed into the golden bird's body. There were spikes on the surface of her divine giant soul shield. Moreover, at this moment, the shield's surface was already flashing with silver light. Roar! The golden bird was indeed extraordinary. In such a dangerous situation, it let out an angry roar and its body suddenly exploded with a powerful lightning storm. The powerful electricity scattered in all directions, causing the surface of its body to be instantly carbonized. However, the power of this all-out attack was already above the seventh order. Bird demons belonged to the Bitterly tribe. Their tribe didn't have the bloodline of the demon god. Thus, their status was only average among the demons. Among them, the strongest was the golden bird demon. However, among the golden bird demons there was a small chance that they would evolve. About 1 in 100 golden birds could evolve to the seventh order and become a dark gold bird demon. In the entire Bitterly tribe, there were less than 100 golden birds. It wasn't clear whether Wang Yuanyuan's luck was good or bad. The one she encountered was actually a golden bird demon that had already begun to evolve. It was much stronger than ordinary golden birds, but it hadn't completely evolved to the dark gold rank. It was still a peak 6th order expert. Speaking of which, this golden bird demon was quite unlucky. If it was a real fight, even if Wang Yuanyuan could kill it, it would take a long time. This was a city with a demon god overseeing it. Even if this half-dark golden bird demon couldn't win, it could still run or wait for reinforcements. Unfortunately, it had encountered a spatial door spirit stove. Without the ability to fly, so what if it had truly evolved to the dark gold rank? The lightning storm from this half-dark golden bird demon was indeed powerful. Wang Yuanyuan felt her entire body go numb. This kind of indiscriminate attack was not something that could be dodged with any technique. However, at the same time, the silver light on Wang Yuanyuan's shield had already shot out. She had already activated the skill the moment she used the shield to ram into the opponent. Space-splitting cannon. The Divine Soul shield supported by 4 empty silver crystals had already reached the legendary rank. The power of a skill that came with a legendary equipment was unimaginable. Wang Yuanyuan's entire body was surrounded by lightning. She stood in place, paralyzed, while the half-dark golden zither demon was sent flying. Its chest had completely caved in. Although it wasn't dead, it was paralyzed on the ground and couldn't get up. At this moment, a dark shadow flashed by. The half-dark golden bird demon's body stiffened, and in the next instant, its consciousness had completely fallen into darkness. With a flash of light, the corpse disappeared. A slim shadow quietly came to Wang Yuanyuan's side, pulled her arm, and the two of them quickly disappeared from the streets. Ear-piercing screams rang out in the cities, and the entire city was in an uproar. A large number of demons began to search the entire city. As one of the most important races in the Narek province, the demon birds actually had 4 golden birds assassinated, and 1 golden bird demon had gone missing. In an instant, the upper echelons of the cities were shocked. The demon god in charge immediately ordered to close the city gates and search the entire city for human spies. When the order was issued and the city gates were closed, the Yuyi merchant group also arrived in front of the city gates, preparing to leave the city. The attack on the Moonlit merchant group in Narek province last time had caused the demon god emperor's fury, and even now, the matter had not been completely pacified. After the demon general guarding the city reported to the demon god and carefully searched the merchant group, he still let them go. It would be strange if they could find them. After Long Houchen's group of 7 met up, he sent the others into the Tower of Eternity. He disguised himself as a manservant and concealed his aura. His young appearance became his best disguise. After smoothly following the merchant group out of the city, he teleported his companions back. After gathering together again, everyone couldn't help but high-five each other. Only Lin Xian, who was enduring the backlash of the spiritual stove, didn't look good. The first mission is completed. If we kill 5 golden devil birds and hand over their magic crystals, we'll get 30,000 contribution points. If we don't hand over the magic crystals, we can get 10,000 merit points. Long Houchen was also in a good mood at this time. Their first commander-level monster hunters mission was completed. It had only been 2 days since they left the Temple League. Of course, the mission of killing 5 golden devil birds was one of the easier ones among all of their missions. The Yi merchant group's journey was still all the way southeast, heading straight for the central province of the demons because it was the most prosperous place and the goods could be sold at the best price. The commander-level Monster Hunt 64 followed the merchant group all the way into the interior of the demons. With the help of the map and Yi merchant group's information, they completed 5 more missions. Of course, they didn't attack every time the Yi merchant group arrived at a place. That would make it too easy for the Yi merchant group to become the target of suspicion. They would usually catch up to the Yi merchant group after completing the mission in a city that Yi merchant group passed through. Most of the time, they were scared but not in danger, and didn't encounter any real resistance. 1/3 of the 16 missions were completed. However, as the Yi merchant group was about to enter the central province, it was time to part. It wasn't because there wasn't a target in the central province, but because Long Houchen had decided to start with the easy ones and finish the easier missions first before entering the central province. Watching the merchant group gradually disappear into the distance, Long Houchen said, "We can only rely on ourselves for the next mission. Our next target is the Jacques province. Let's go." The Jacques province was located to the north of the central province of the demons. There was a group of demons stationed there called the Jacques tribe, which was how the Jacques province got its name. The Jacques tribe was the same as the Kuli tribe, not a demon god race. Their people were also called Jacques demons. Among the demons, they could be considered a powerful close combat race. However, because their population wasn't large, they were rarely sent to the battlefield. Most of them stayed in the Jacques province to guard the north of the central province. The 7th mission that Long Houchen and the others were about to face was to kill 100 Jacques demons. The Jacques demons were rank 4 powerhouses, but they liked to gather in group. The most powerful among them were rank 8 existences. Commanders also had the strength of rank 6. Completing this mission wasn't easy. At the very least, it was much more difficult than the missions that Long Houchen and the others had faced before. The entire Jacques demon race only had 5 or 6,000. Wanting to kill 100 Jacques demon empresses without the Jacques patriarch noticing or causing trouble for them wasn't an easy task. Especially since they didn't have the Yi merchant group to investigate. They could only rely on themselves. According to the map, it only took them half a day to enter the territory of the Jacques province. It wasn't much different from the other provinces of the demons. In the region ruled by the demons, the land was very barren. There were very few fields and even very few forests. When the wind blew, yellow sand filled the sky. It was a desolate scene. Long Houchen tightened his large cloak and said to Kai Er beside him, "If we continue north for 2 to 3 days, we should be able to enter the capital of the Jacques province, Grand Jacques City. Almost all the Jacques demons are gathered in the city. This is good for our operation, but it'll be a bit troublesome to escape. After the mission in the Jacques province is completed, we'll continue east and proceed to the next mission." Kai said, "Do you want us to assassinate the patriarch of the Jacques clan? That's at least a king-grade mission. If we complete a mission above our rank, we should be able to get more rewards." Long Houchen shook his head and said, "No, it's too risky. At present, we still don't have the confidence to defeat a rank 8 powerhouse. Moreover, after reaching the 8th rank, there's a huge gap between each rank. The internal spiritual energy of a peak rank 8 powerhouse can reach as high as 100,000. It's definitely not something we can fight against. It's better to be safe and complete the mission as soon as possible before withdrawing from the Jacques province." The others didn't give any opinions. Long Houchen's arrangements had always been based on safety. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would rarely take risk. Even if their strength had taken a qualitative leap, as the leader, he was still very cautious. Just as they were talking, a large rumbling sound suddenly came from the front. Because of the sand swirling up by the wind, they couldn't clearly see what demons were coming from afar. But judging from the sound, they were only a few miles away from them. Moreover, there were quite a few of them. "Hide!" Long Houchen raised his hand. Everyone quickly dodged to the side and found a small mound to hide. Without needing him to say anything, Kai Er had already quietly swept out. She entered stealth mode and scouted in the direction of the sound. Being a scout was one of the assassin's tasks. "Leader, should we kill them until they piss in their pants?" Sima Xian chuckled, already holding his vigor pill of light. After entering the territory of the demons, he was the most dazzling one. With the help of the vigor pill of light, he had already killed many demons, including a rank 7 demons. Even though the rank 7 demons were being restrained by others, Sima Xian was still able to kill them in one hit. One could imagine how terrifying the attack power of his vigor pill of light was now. Long Houchen waved his hand and said, "Let's see which race the demons belong to and how many there are. Don't act rashly." Because the sandstorm was too strong, all of them were wearing a veil on their faces. Coupled with the earthen yellow cloak on their bodies, they were crouching behind the mound. Even if one looked down from the sky, it would be very difficult to discover them. Not long after, Kai Er had already floated back. She retracted her spiritual wings and said to Long Houchen in a low voice, "It's the Jacques clan. They're chasing after a group of monster hunters." "Our people?" Long Houchen said in shock. Kai Er nodded and said, "The Jacques clan has dispatched at least 1,000 people. They're led by 2 rank 8 Jacques clan leader rank expert. There are also 30 to 40 rank 6 Jacques commanders. The group of monster hunters they're chasing should be king rank. They're fighting and retreating. But looking at their appearance, their situation isn't too good. Because none of them are using spiritual wings. Their bodies are also stained with a kind of purple mucus. If this goes on, I'm afraid they won't be able to hold on. I can faintly see that there seems to be a purplish-black figure in the sky, following the advance of the Jacques clan. It's very likely that the purplish-black liquid came from it. I reckon it has the ability to restrict spiritual wings." All the comrades' gazes fell on Long Houchen. The question they were facing now was, to save or not to save. Without a doubt, this Jacques clan army was extremely powerful. With 2 rank 8 Jacques commanders keeping watch, and so many Jacques demons, they wouldn't stand a chance if they fought recklessly. However, the enemy was chasing after a king rank monster hunters. Long Houchen turned around and looked at his comrades. "If we save them, we're very likely to face a huge crisis. If we don't save them, our comrades may fall here. What do you say?" "Boss, let's go." Sima Xian was the first to display a strong fighting spirit. Everyone also nodded to Long Houchen one after another. Long Houchen slightly narrowed his eyes and said, "Kai Er, I'll leave that guy in the sky to you. If I didn't guess wrong, it should be a spore demon. Demons are rank 6 aerial support experts. This spore demon's fighting strength isn't strong, but it's extremely annoying. They can spray a large area of mucus. Once you're infected, it's very difficult to clean. Moreover, you'll lose the ability to release spiritual wings, and your speed will be greatly reduced. It's an important support branch of the demon's air force. You go get rid of it, then rendezvous with us to ensure a path of retreat. After killing the spore demon, we'll move. We'll kill our way into the enemy's formation from the flank. We won't directly clash with the enemy. As long as we give our comrades a chance to escape, that's enough. After we're done, immediately fly into the sky and escape. Among the Jacques clan, only experts of the rank 6 and above have the ability to fly. The only ones that can give us trouble are the 2 rank 8 Jacques commanders. Everyone must listen to my commands. At the crucial moment, I'll bring up the rear. You guys follow Haoyue and leave, then I'll use Haoyue to teleport to your side. As long as we have enough time to activate the Eternal Melody's teleportation, we'll be safe. No one is to fight, understand? Inger you. He then told Chen Inger a few words alone. He had no choice but to explain his arrangements clearly. Otherwise, with the relationship between him and his comrades, who would be willing to let him bring up the rear? Kair nodded, and the black spiritual wings appeared once again. Her figure flashed and broke through the sky. Her body had already entered stealth mode in the process. With her cultivation reaching the rank 6, coupled with her own invisibility, under the double invisibility, she could remain in a semi-invisible state even when using her spiritual wings to fly at high speed. As long as the enemy's cultivation was lower than hers, she wouldn't have to worry about being detected. Long Haochen was extremely confident in Kair. The spore demons were only rank 6 demons. Without the support of other troops, they were trash. Just as Long Haochen finished deploying everything, the rumbling sounds in the distance were getting closer and closer. The air was filled with yellow sand. Long Haochen and the others could barely make out the silhouettes in front of them moving forward at high speed. Spears kept flying behind them, and the ear-piercing sound of them tearing through the air reverberated through the air. The Jacques demons had the mentality of a centaur. Their upper bodies were very similar to humans, but their chest, abdomen and back were covered with black scales. Their faces were slightly longer than that of humans, and they looked very sinister. Their lower bodies had 4 hooves like horses, and they were good at using and throwing spears. Looking at the humans in front, they were indeed in a very bad situation. Behind them was a knight. His mount was a powerful earth dragon that was over 7 meters long. Rays of golden light constantly shone from his body, blocking most of the attacks. The others were all riding on different kinds of magical beasts. Obviously, they were mounts summoned by summoners. It was precisely because of this that they were able to escape. Although ordinary Jacques demons couldn't fly, their speed on the ground was still extremely fast. Each Jacques demon carried at least 4 spears, and they constantly threw them forward and then picked them up. Those with wings on their backs were the Jacques commanders of the Jacques race. The 2 Jacques demons in the lead were extremely tall. Their entire bodies were over 3 meters tall. They were the 2 experts of the 8th step. Although they only had 1 spear, it was extremely huge. Every time they launched an attack, the air would explode with a thunderous roar. That human knight's earth dragon already had many wounds on its body. However, that knight was indeed valiant. Under the treatment of a priest, the support of a magician, and the harassment of an assassin, he was actually able to forcibly resist the attacks of those 2 Jacques commanders of the 8th step. Moreover, if one looked carefully, they would discover that this knight's silver armor was not ordinary. He had been hit several times by the enemy, but he seemed to be unharmed. Mithril Foundation Battle Armor, Mithril Foundation Knight. Monster hunters were the most elite existences of mankind. King-class monster hunters were already at the middle to high level among all monster hunters. Advancing from the general class to the king class was a qualitative leap. One needed to pay 1,000,000 contribution points to advance, and that was easier said than done. Although this Mithril Foundation Knight didn't have the strength of the 8th step, he was at least at the peak of the 7th step. He wielded the heavy sword and shield in his hands with great force. He was extremely powerful. Soon, The vanguard of the Jacques demons had already chased after the king-class monster hunters and charged past the mound where Long Houchen and the others were hiding. Long Houchen gestured to Chen Inger. Chen Inger nodded, and immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and began to chant an incantation. An illusory and gentle white light surrounded her body and spread outwards. In that gentle halo, Chen Inger's entire body sank into a strange rhythm. Previously, he didn't let her use magic because he was afraid that the two Jacques leaders of the eighth step would discover it. At the same time, in a flash of purple light, Long Haoyue's huge figure had already appeared beside everyone. Han Yu had also summoned his evil eye. Long Houchen raised his head and looked towards the sky. In the midst of a mournful scream, a huge, round figure with 6 wings on its body descended from the sky. This guy's body was at least 5 meters in diameter. If it wasn't for its 6 wings, it probably wouldn't be able to fly at all. Its huge body directly smashed into the ground. "Madul, go!" Long Houchen shouted in a low voice. Piglet Madul's speed was extremely fast. After swallowing a magic crystal, he had already soared into the sky. His small eyes flashed, and locked onto the dead spore demon that had fallen to the ground. In the next moment, a strong purple light surged, and Madul had already risen into the sky. In the process of ascending, his body rapidly changed, and unexpectedly also turned into the appearance of a spore demon. "Go!" Long Houchen shouted loudly. The 4 wings on his back flashed, and he took the lead to rush out. The others all mounted on Long Haoyue's broad back, leaving only Chen Inger who was chanting an incantation. They directly rushed towards the Jacques demon army from the side. The Jacques demons' reaction was still quite fast. When they discovered the enemy, dozens of Jacques demons immediately turned around and threw the spears in their hands towards Long Houchen's group. Dazzling golden light suddenly erupted, and Long Houchen instantly accelerated like a golden meteor. At the same time, a large expanse of golden light erupted from his back, and directly fell into the Jacques demon formation. At this time, Long Houchen didn't use the glorious sacred shield. At this time, his left hand had ripples of light, and his right hand had already released the aria of the goddess of light. He was like a golden god of death rushing into the enemy group. Wherever he passed, all the spears were turned into flying ashes by the tyrannical light elements. Chapter 133. Yiting had already quietly appeared behind Long Houchen. She was the one who had released that light magic. Jacques demons were worthy of being one of the strongest close combat units of the demons. They were very powerful in both long-range and close-range combat. Immediately, more than 10 Jacques demons charged towards Long Houchen. Long Houchen wanted to finish the battle quickly, and even wanted to complete the mission they had prepared here. Naturally, he wouldn't hold anything back. He swept out the heavy swords in his hands at the same time. Rippling light cutting sword. At this time, the difference between the 2 heavy swords in his hands could be seen. They both had sharp sword intent, but the rippling light on the left only killed 3 Jacques demons, while the aria of the goddess of light on the right spat out a terrifying blade of light that was 10 meters long. Wherever it passed, it was invincible. At least 10 Jacques demons were cut in half at the waist by this sweep. Not to mention the enemies. Even Long Houchen himself didn't expect the power of the aria of the goddess of light to be so great. When completing the mission before, they had never been caught in a group battle. Only now did Long Houchen realize how terrifying the power of a divine sword in a group battle could be. Under normal circumstances, the aria of the goddess of light could spit out 6 feet of sword light, not to mention when it was infused with pure light elements by Long Houchen. When this divine sword had been sealed, countless people had tried to open its seal, but to no avail. Even a powerhouse of the 9th step had failed. Why? Because what was needed to open this divine sword wasn't a huge amount of spiritual energy of the light attribute, but pure spiritual energy of the light attribute. Therefore, Long Houchen could succeed. With the support of this monstrous sword intent, Long Houchen was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. The wings on his back flapped again, and his whole body directly drilled into the enemy group. Immediately after, an incomparably tyrannical golden vortex exploded in the center of the Jacques demons. The seventh step skill of the punishment knight Bladestorm. Although Long Houchen's cultivation hadn't reached the seventh step yet, he was a divine favored, and could use some seventh step skills that weren't too powerful. This was because he had the full support of Yuting. At this moment, if one were to look closely, they would discover that Yuting was tightly pressed against Long Houchen's back as his body spun rapidly, as if she had melted. Circles of golden ripples spread out from Yuting's body, absorbing a large amount of light elements in the air and injecting them into Long Houchen's body. Bladestorm was a powerful AoE skill. It could be said to be the upgraded version of the warrior's whirlwind slash. The stronger the spiritual energy and the stronger the weapon, the more powerful it would be. As soon as Long Houchen used this skill, everything within a radius of 30 meters turned into a golden ocean. More than 20 Jacques demons who bore the brunt of the attack were instantly ground to dust by the terrifying golden light. With a loud roar, Haoyue's huge body had already charged over. Its thick tail swept out, brazenly whipping away several Jacques demons. Immediately after, its 4 big heads were like magic cannons at the top of a fortress, exploding one tyrannical magic after another. Han Yu, Sima Xian, and Wang Yuanyuan jumped down from Haoyue's back. Sima Xian rushed to the front, blocking the enemies in front of Haoyue, so that it could fight magic steadily. Han Yu and Wang Yuanyuan were on its left and right. Lin Xian didn't use any offensive magic, but became the defender. Fire elemental shields flickered in the air at an almost instantaneous speed, helping his companions resist the enemy's attacks. This was the first time they faced a group battle after entering the demon's territory. Seeing Long Houchen's terrifying outbreak, everyone's heart was ignited with a raging fighting spirit. This was also the first time they went all out. Sima Xian swung the vigorous ball of light in his hand. Even if he didn't use the spiritual stove of purple godly thunder, the terrifying metal ball only made cracking sounds wherever it passed. Its power was even comparable to that of Long Houchen's Bladestorm. Moreover, don't forget that he didn't use any skills. He relied entirely on the power of the vigorous ball of light and his own formidable strength. Wang Yuanyuan also wielded the Divine Soul shield in her hand. She didn't need the empty silver crystal at all. Not a single Jacques demon could withstand a heavy blow from the Divine Soul shield. On the other side, Han Yu's battle strength was just as valiant. Wherever the legendary giant sword, the berserk blood, went up and down, a bloody light burst out. In just a short time after they rushed into the enemy's formation, over 100 Jacques demons had already fallen. In other words, their mission was close to completion. The appearance of Long Houchen's group was so sudden that the Jacques demons in front of them didn't react until now. The 2 Jacques chiefs at the front roared angrily. Behind them, over 10 Jacques commanders of the 6th grade led the army to charge back and attack Long Houchen's group. As for the 2 Jacques leaders, they led the remaining 20 Jacques commanders to pursue the King grade demon hunt squads. Undoubtedly, the 2 Jacques chiefs reacted very quickly and adjusted their situation quite well. However, they had still underestimated Long Houchen and the others who had appeared from behind. In fact, they weren't the only ones who underestimated the general class Monster Hunt 64. Even Long Houchen's group had underestimated themselves. In their minds, the 4th grade experts should at least be able to resist their attack. However, when the battle really started, they discovered that these 4th grade Jacques demons were like papier-mâché under their attack. A year of seclusion had brought about earth-shattering changes to the general class Monster Hunt 64. Their external and internal spiritual energy had been greatly improved. Their mental state had become more stable. Coupled with the enhancement of their equipment and the spiritual stove that each of them had, their overall strength was even comparable to that of the newly promoted King-class monster hunters. fireball, with a diameter of 1 meter, shot out from Xiaohua's mouth and exploded in the distance. Dozens of Jacques demons were caught in the sea of fire. Greenie, on the other hand, was constantly spitting out wind blades. Unlike fireball, the magic it launched wasn't very strong. However, as if it had eyes, every wind blade would find a Jacques demon and specifically attack their throats. Light, on the other hand, was spitting out a golden light that connected it with Long Houchen. It was constantly injecting its light attribute into Long Houchen's body through Brilliant World. Blue, on the other hand, raised its head proudly. The butterfly-shaped horn on its head emitted a faint blue light, and a large number of icicles were spitting out in all directions. Not only could it effectively kill and injure the enemy, but it could also reduce the enemy's speed. It could be said that Haoyue could now be used as 4 magicians, and all of them were 6th-grade magicians. Under such circumstances, by the time those 6th-grade commander-level Jacques demons had rushed over, the number of ordinary Jacques demons had already exceeded 200, and it was still rapidly increasing. After a round of killing, Long Houchen had already quickly returned to his companion's side. Seeing those Jacques leaders rushing over, he snorted coldly and rushed towards them with large strides. A black silhouette just happened to appear beside him at this moment. Long Houchen turned his head to look, and saw Kai Er lightly nodding at him. The two of them advanced almost side by side, and killed their way towards those Jacques leaders. A mass of purplish-black liquid suddenly fell from the sky, and a large amount of liquid dispersed in the air. However, this time it wasn't aimed at the monster hunters, but fell accurately on the 2 8th-grade Jacques leaders, as well as the 20 Jacques leaders they were leading. Their speed decreased sharply and their wings became heavy. This caused the originally extremely advantageous speed of these powerful Jacques demons to disappear in an instant. Roar! The Jacques leaders raised their heads in disbelief, and just happened to see that huge mass of purplish-black figure squirming and preparing to spit out a second mouthful of mucus. Without a doubt, this was naturally Piglet Madol's transformation. He slightly adapted to the Spore Demon's ability, and then launched an attack from the sky. The Jacques leaders on the left let out an angry roar, and pointed the long spear in their hands towards the sky. A pitch-black light soared into the sky, and went straight for Piglet Madol. In that instant the air seemed to be torn apart, and the sky darkened amidst the ear-piercing whistling sound. A glaring golden light suddenly flashed violently, and the swift and fierce holy flames collided with the black light in the air. Although it wasn't able to completely destroy the black light, it made it lose its lock-on effect. The one who made the move was the Knight of the King-tier monster hunters. Madol's whole body stiffened the moment he was locked on by the 8th-grade Jacques leaders, and was about to transform back and run away. However, he suddenly felt the pressure of the lock-on disappear, and his fat body twisted in the air, and immediately dodged the attack. Its dodging ability was trained by the 12th Holy Guard Red Skull. With a puff, another mouthful of thick purplish-black mucus was spat out. This time, it was aimed at the Jacques army on the other side. Stamping on the ground with his left foot, Long Houchen jumped up, and thrusted out the aria of the Goddess of Light in his right hand, colliding with the tip of a Jacques leader's long spear. A strange scene appeared. The tough long spear of the Jacques leader was easily destroyed in front of the aria of the Goddess of Light's spiritual pearl. Immediately after, thousands of lights and shadows exploded in front of the Jacques leader. Even if it had scales on its body, and the support of dark spiritual power wasn't weak, how could it resist the demon-slaying flash launched by the aria of the Goddess of Light? Its body instantly turned into a sieve of blood. The soaring Long Houchen lightly flapped his right spiritual wings, and his body slightly tilted in the air, and flashed past the Jacques leader. He swung his heavy sword with both hands at the same time. Dual Sword Azura Chop. After such a long period of training, he could finally use the powerful Azura Chop with only one hand. At the same time he launched this attack, a fierce white light was suddenly released with his body as the center, enveloping the dozen or so Jacques leaders that were rushing over. However, this skill wasn't released by Long Houchen, but by Yiting, who had been chanting an incantation for a long time. The 7th grade light spell, Holy Deterrence. Using a spell of a higher rank was nothing to Yiting, who was a light elemental spirit. It was just that the chanting time was a little longer. If this spell was used against ordinary enemies, it could only temporarily deter them, and at the same time, cause them to suffer light elemental damage. At most, they wouldn't be able to move for 2 seconds. However, when Holy Deterrence was used against dark elemental enemies, its power would increase exponentially. Especially when used against opponents whose strength was lower than the magic rank, the effect would be even more powerful. A layer of milky white flames could clearly be seen burning on the bodies of all the Jacques leaders. They, who were about to besiege Long Houchen and Kair, let out mournful screams, and their bodies twitched violently, falling into a stunned state due to the deterrence effect. If one were to look down from the sky, they would be able to see that after the white light exploded, 2 silhouettes, one gold and one black, passed through the crowd like flowing water. Next, corpses fell behind these 2 silhouettes. All 13 6th grade Jacques leaders were annihilated. The 2 silhouettes, gold and black, converged. Long Houchen and Kair looked at each other, and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. Although they had the confidence to get rid of these dozen or so Jacques leaders, they didn't expect the process to go so smoothly. Even without the help of Yiting's magic, they wouldn't have faced too much difficulty. And with Yiting's magic, killing these Jacques leaders was as easy as killing ordinary Jacques. When more than a quarter of the army was defeated by the enemy without any losses, it would not be easy for them to maintain their fighting spirit. Under the tyrannical offensive of the General Tier Monster Hunt 64, the Jacques army was finally routed. They fled in all directions. At this time, the 2 8th grade Jacques leaders on the other side were also in shock, and at the same time fell into a dilemma. Long Houchen and the others, of course, wouldn't chase after the ordinary Jacques demons. Instead, they went straight for the powerful Jacques demons, because their original goal was to rescue their comrade. But they didn't expect to be able to defeat the Jacques army. The Jacques demons who fled in all directions didn't even care about their leaders. They only cared about running for their lives. This kind of situation was almost impossible in the army of the Temple League. On the other side, the ace monster hunters also stopped running, but stopped in their tracks to block the attacks of these powerful Jacques demons. In this team, the most powerful ones were the Mithril Foundation Knight and the Summoner. Relying on the Summoner's continuous summoning at the expense of a large amount of spiritual power, they withstood the attacks of these powerful Jacques demons, and waited for Long Houchen and the others to attack from the front and back. The 2 Jacques chiefs of the 8th step constantly let out angry roars, gathering the scattered Jacques demons. At the same time, one of them led 6 Jacques commanders to meet Long Houchen and the others. Formation! Long Houchen shouted. He was about to face the 8th grade demons, and this was also his second time facing 8th grade opponent. Of course, he couldn't face them in a scattered formation like before. Yiting floated in the air, standing on the head of Haoyue's 4-headed Little Light, chanting an incantation with Little Light, injecting a tyrannical light spiritual power into Long Houchen. At the same time, the entire General Tier Monster Hunt 64 was in action. In their eyes, there was only one target, and that was the 8th grade Jacques leaders. As for those 6th grade ones, what could they do? Chapter 134. Right at this moment, 3 magical beasts of different shapes, 2 of them of the 5th rank and 1 of the 7th rank, dashed down from a small hill in the distance, heading towards the battlefield. Chen Ying-er was sitting on the back of the magical beast of the 5th rank. Long Houchen had previously urged her to use the Living Soul Gate in order to cover the retreat. According to his plan, once the rescue was completed, he would rely on the Spore Demon transformed from a dull piglet to restrict the enemy's ability to fly, and then use Chen Ying-er's summoned magical beast and himself to cover the retreat. That would give his companions time to escape. However, no one had expected such a change to occur on the battlefield. The 1,000-strong Jacques demon army actually collapsed under their attack. The battlefield was ever-changing. When Chen saw the situation on the battlefield clearly, she naturally didn't want to fall behind. She brought her summoned magical beast and rushed over to regroup with her companions, fighting together with them. The 8th rank was indeed the 8th rank. Although the Jacques leader had been affected by the mucus of the spore demon, his speed was still very fast. His 4 hooves flew, and he charged straight towards Long Houchen's group of 6. In the process of charging forward, circles of black light spread out from under his feet, and the scales on his body were covered with a layer of pitch-black gloominess. Tiny black flames began to burn around his body, burning away that hateful mucus. At the same time, it also frantically increased the imposing manner of the Jacques leader. Rays of light flickered on the surface of the pitch-black spear. When he was less than 50 meters away from Long Houchen's group, the Jacques leader roared towards the sky. A faint black shadow spread out from his back, as if a black hole that could devour everything had opened its mouth behind him. He turned halfway, and his right arm that was holding the spear straightened behind him. Then, he fiercely threw it towards Long Houchen's group. Strangely enough, it was clearly a black spear that flew out like a shocking rainbow. However, the Jacques leader was still holding the spear in his hand. "Careful, it's the sky-dominating extermination," shouted the ace monster hunter's knight in the distance. However, he couldn't help Long Houchen because he couldn't even take care of himself. Previously, in order to avoid getting injured, the 2 Jacques race leaders hadn't used their full strength, but now it was clearly different. Their subordinates had suddenly been defeated, so the 2 powerhouses of the 8th step were truly enraged. Although their status among the demons wasn't as revered as that of the demon gods, as the 1st and 2nd chiefs of the Jacques race, they practically ruled over the entire Jacques province. Although the Jacques province was the smallest among the 24 provinces of the demons, it was still one of the 24 provinces. At this time, they were actually forced into such a passive position by a dozen or so humans, and a large number of their capable subordinates were killed. It would be strange if the 2 patriarchs weren't angry. The moment that pitch-black spear was thrown, the sky suddenly darkened. Even the yellow sand that had been swept up by the gale was instantly dispersed to both sides. It felt like the Azura chop cleaving apart spiritual power, but on a much larger scale. The extremely frightening and powerful pressure made everyone feel a chill in their hearts. Everyone even felt that the sky-dominating extermination was aimed at them. The skill launched by a powerhouse of the 8th step was indeed frightening. The black spear's trajectory couldn't even be clearly seen. However, at this time, Long Houchen proudly rushed forward. A white light shot out from his back and accurately landed on the body of the Jacques leader of the 8th step. It was the Saint Spiritual Stove's attraction skill. In the face of a strong enemy, facing difficulties head-on was the courage that a guardian knight must possess. No matter how powerful the enemy was, the guardian knight would always be the first to rush forward. With a flick of his left hand, the ripple of light fell into Yiting's hand. Long Houchen held the aria of the goddess of light with both hands. His body that was rushing forward suddenly stopped in midair. Immediately afterward, his whole body seemed to enter a strange realm. It looked very slow as he made an upward slash. 1-on-1. Yes, Long Houchen wanted to rely on his own strength to resist the powerful attack of a Jacques demon of the 8th step. At this time, the most obvious change on his body appeared in the aria of the goddess of light. The originally rich sword aura on the blade suddenly converged, and the blade once again became dark gold. Along with his upward slash that seemed to have a mysterious trajectory, Long Houchen gave people the feeling that he was using this heavy divine sword to gently lift the veil of a bride. If there was a real expert in the sword here, they would certainly be shocked by the scene before their eyes. What Long Houchen displayed was no longer just a simple body and sword fusion, but also the unity of man and nature. The sword intent was contained within, condensed and not scattered. It was the true essence of the sword. Perhaps he didn't know any gorgeous swordsmanship, but since he obtained the aria of the goddess of light, his understanding of the sword was no longer comparable to before. Puff! The darkness and the dark gold collided in the air. Long Houchen's whole body trembled, and his body floated back a few meters in the air, only stopping when he collided with Hao Yue's huge body. However, that pitch-black spear shadow was forcibly flicked away by him and soared straight into the sky. Yes, it was not a head-on collision, but a flick. After all, Long Houchen was only a rank 6. Although his internal spiritual energy was not far from 10,000, he would always be a rank 6 Radiance Knight before breaking through 10,000. Even with legendary grade equipment, it was impossible to fight a rank 8 powerhouse head-on. However, he relied on his own strength to receive the tyrannical sky's annihilation. Speaking of which, his sword was very simple. It changed the enemy's attack trajectory and cut off the enemy's thought and skill combination. But how could it be so easy to actually sit up? This was the perfect combination of his own strength and sword intent. It looked like a simple flick, but it was the fusion of Long Houchen's understanding of sword intent and ancient martial skills during his seclusion. When the Jacques chief saw that Long Houchen had unexpectedly deflected his attack, he was also shocked. He never expected that this fellow, whose spiritual energy fluctuations were far inferior to the other knight, could actually receive his attack. Moreover, he had so cleverly deflected the tyrannical sky's annihilation. A strong killing intent pervaded the air, and the Jacques chief roared once again. The wings on his back slightly unfolded, and his 4 hooves stamped on the ground as he charged forward with all his strength. Since long-range attacks couldn't kill the opponent, then close combat attacks would be fine. Under the effect of the saint's spiritual stove, his current target could only be Long Houchen. Long Houchen took a deep breath and calmed his surging qi and blood. The substantial increase in external spiritual energy was indeed very beneficial. His body's ability to endure was much stronger than before. Otherwise, even if he deflected the opponent's attack, he was afraid that he would still be injured. The 4 wings on his back unfolded and suddenly flapped, pushing Long Houchen's body to brazenly rush out. Behind him, Yiting nimbly flipped over and turned into a golden light as she chased after Long Houchen. In a sense, she was a part of Long Houchen's body. Therefore, it was very easy for her to keep up with his speed. The other people of the general class Monster Hunt 64 also rapidly followed. Kai Er once again disappeared into the air. The vigorous light pill in Sima Xian's hand had already whistled and hovered above his head. Purple light flickered on his chest, and a faint burnt smell wafted out. This was the backlash of the spiritual stove of purple godly thunder. Wang Yuan quietly installed 4 pieces of empty silver crystals on her divine spirit shield. Han Yu just put away the shield and held the wild scarlet blood sword with both hands. They were already prepared to welcome this difficult battle. This was also the first time they completely relied on their own strength to fight against a powerhouse of the 8th step. If it was in Jacques City, Long Houchen definitely wouldn't have made such a choice. But it was different here. This was the wilderness. If they really couldn't beat the opponent, they still had the ability to escape. Since that was the case, why not try to fight against the demons of the 8th step? Only such a powerhouse could truly test the extent of their current strength. Ha! The Jacques leader angrily shouted. He raised his 2 front hooves and suddenly stomped on the ground. With a loud bang, a thick black stream of air rushed towards the charging Long Houchen. At the same time, the long spear in his right hand had already transformed into thousands of black rays, going straight to envelop Long Houchen. Approaching within 10 meters of the Jacques leader of the 8th step, Long Houchen suddenly felt the air become viscous. The thick dark element actually completely excluded the light element. Moreover, there was a strong suction coming from the Jacques leader, pulling his body. A tyrannical pressure accompanied its attack, like a mountain pressing down on him. Eighth step, this was the eighth step. The last time he faced the moon demon of the eighth step, Long Houchen had taken the conjoined spirit increasing pill, so it wasn't very obvious. But this time it was different. Facing the Jacques leader of the eighth step alone, that huge pressure had greatly affected his willpower. This was the difference in strength, the absolute suppression of spiritual power. If it wasn't for the fact that Long Houchen's own spiritual power was of the purest light attribute, it would have been very difficult for him to even have the intention to fight against this expert of the eighth step. Of the four wings, the bottom two flapped down with force, while the top two remained unchanged. Long Houchen's body suddenly rose a few meters in the state of charging forward. He just happened to dodge the black stream of air produced by the Jacques leader's front hooves stomping on the ground. At the same time, Long Houchen's whole body once again lit up with that strange dark golden light. Body and sword as one, he weaved through the shadows of the Jacques leader's spear. The aria of the goddess of light in his hand seemed to be deftly pointed out, while he himself was like a small boat in a raging storm and huge waves. The Jacques leader felt it the most. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that this human should have fallen instantly in front of his attack. But, every time he felt that he was about to kill his opponent, the opponent's heavy sword would always be able to point at the crucial point of his spear's strength, and he would always be able to use his spiritual wings to change direction and avoid the danger of certain death. At this moment, Long Houchen was like a shadow following the body, rippling amidst the afterimages of the spear. However, he did not clash head-on with the Jacques leader. He completely relied on his technique to shake the spear, causing the rank 8 powerhouse to be unable to erupt with its strongest attack. No matter who it was, this feeling would be extremely painful. The Jacques leader roared, and his spear suddenly stabbed into the ground. Instantly, the indiscriminate black light of the secret skill spread out like a whirlpool. He thought to himself, "Let's see how you can dodge this time." Yes, in the face of such an omnidirectional attack, Long Houchen couldn't dodge it no matter what. But at this moment, his body suddenly froze in the air, both hands holding the aria of the goddess of light, and brazenly slashed down. The dark golden heavy sword blossomed with a blazing white light, and in that instant, both of Long Houchen's hands clearly turned transparent gold. The golden light flashed, and the black light cut through the middle, streaking across both sides of Long Houchen's body. And also at this moment, a huge figure directly crashed into him from behind. It was Haoyue. Not only that, with a crisp long cry, a golden light flashed, and a figure directly rushed towards the aria of the goddess of light. The figure that crashed from behind was Haoyue. Haoyue's body was at least 10 meters long, and as he sprinted, he carried a threatening aura. At this moment, be it him or Long Houchen, their bodies were rippling with a layer of purple light, especially their eyes. That demonic purple light even made the 8th step Jacques leader's heart tremble when he saw it. As Long Houchen's body trembled violently, a dense purple light brazenly filled his body, and an indescribable yet terrifying pressure that far surpassed that of ancient magical beasts instantly erupted from his body. The Jacques leader only felt his momentum stagnate. Even with his 8th step cultivation, he actually couldn't continue his attack at this moment, and instead took a few steps back in horror. The 6 Jacques leaders who rushed up with him, and had just caught up with his footsteps, all felt their bodies go limp. At this moment, a black figure appeared behind them, and a black radiance, like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, easily cut off their lives. It was precisely Kai who had previously concealed herself in the air, making her move. Long Houchen's body underwent rapid changes. The brilliant holy armor turned completely purple, and not only that, but the armor itself was also undergoing earth-shattering changes. The originally very simple plate armor became gorgeous. On both sides of the shoulders, there were 2 bulges that looked like dragon heads, and the armor on the back flipped up like scales, turning into layers and layers. Spikes continuously protruded from each of Long Houchen's joints, and the thickness of the armor at least doubled. The magnificent patterns on the armor had never been seen before, and were definitely not the totems of the High Elves or any other ancient races. The most striking feature was on Long Houchen's chest. 9 purple light patterns extended from the bottom to the top, and covered his shoulders, chest, and most of his body. At the end of the 9 light patterns, it could be vaguely seen that there were 9 balls of purple light that looked like 9 faces, emitting a demonic and tyrannical aura. The purplish-gold light patterns on Long Houchen's forehead became extremely bright, and his black hair turned completely purple. His originally handsome face lost some of the pure aura of light, and instead gained some demonic and condescending aura. Even the divine sword in his hand, the aria of the goddess of light, was covered with a layer of purple. Fusion. Yes, it was the fusion of Long Houchen and Haoyue. However, compared to before, the fusion this time was obviously earth-shattering. If their fusion in the past was only a semi-finished product, and could only increase Long Houchen's strength to a certain extent, the fusion this time was a complete product. The aura emitted by Long Houchen was clearly much stronger than before. His armor had turned purple, but the spiritual energy emitted from his body was still golden. The noble and magnificent purplish-gold color became the color of spiritual energy that Long Houchen was currently emitting. It was not just his body that had changed. The aria of the goddess of light in his hand had also changed. Wasn't the one who had entered the divine sword Yiting? Spirit burning. This ability belonged to both Long Houchen and Yiting. It was a powerful ability that came from the combination of the spiritual stove fusion and Long Houchen's divine-favored constitution. Yiting's spirit burning was used on equipment, while Long Houchen's spirit burning was used on himself. At this moment, the moment Yiting flew into the aria of the goddess of light, the divine sword's own power was finally awakened. It would not be like the light retribution that had been unable to withstand Yiting's spirit burning. A swift and fierce sword intent burst forth from Long Houchen's body, as if it could split the heavens and the earth. Then, a dazzling purplish-gold flame instantly rose from Long Houchen's body. At this moment, Long Houchen finally displayed his strongest fighting state on the battlefield. After fusing with Haoyue, he and Yiting had both used spirit burning. Not to mention the enemy, even his companions felt a sense of fear at this moment, because they could no longer feel the extent of Long Houchen's strength at this moment. His 4 wings, which had been dyed purplish gold by the purple light, suddenly flapped, and Long Houchen brazenly pounced towards the Jacques leader like a purple meteor. In the previous series of probing, he discovered that the Jacques leader's cultivation was still a bit lower than that of the young moon devil he had faced before. When he used his strongest state, with the help of his companions, he would really have a chance to kill him. Boom! For the first time, a real collision occurred between Long Houchen and the Jacques leader. The aria of the goddess of light fiercely struck the pitch-black spear in the hands of the Jacques leader. Both sides bounced back at the same time, and unexpectedly, no one gained the upper hand. In other words, Long Houchen's current attack power and physical strength had already been raised to the level of the 8th-grade Jacques leader. The Jacques leader looked down at his spear, and was shocked to find that the thickest part of the center of the spear had been split in half. What shocked him even more was that a deep wound had appeared from his right shoulder all the way to his left rib. The scales had rolled back, and had already injured his flesh. There was also an extremely strange energy pouring into it. No matter how much he urged his spiritual power, he couldn't dispel it. That wasn't just simple light spiritual power, but also a kind of terrifying aura full of destruction and annihilation. Of course, it wasn't the heavy sword in Long Houchen's hand that injured the Jacques leader, but the sword intent of the aria of the goddess of light, which was a mixture of Long Houchen's and Haoyue's sword intent. When the godly sword once again had its own sword spirit, its power had brazenly risen from the legendary level to the epic level. An epic level equipment could undoubtedly change a war. If Long Houchen hadn't been in the state of fusion with Haoyue, Even if Yiting had fused with the aria of the Goddess of Light, he wouldn't have had the ability to use it. Go to hell! Long Houchen shouted, turning complicated into simple, and stepped out in the void. Azura chop! The misty purple-gold color rippled in the sky like a strange light that distorted the space. The rich purple-gold color also seemed to swallow everything around it at that moment. Boom! Although the Jacques leader had tried his best to resist, the aria of the Goddess of Light, which had been upgraded to the epic level, was really too terrifying. That tyrannical destructive power, the condensed sword intent that seemed to be able to split the heavens and the earth, almost instantly destroyed his weapon, and also sent his body flying. At the critical moment, the Jacques leader only had time to tilt his head slightly, avoiding the most vital part of his head. However, half of his body was still sent flying by the sword. The entire left side of his body, including his shoulders, arms, ribs, and the 2 hooves on his right were all sent flying by the purple-gold slash. At this moment, a huge metal ball also appeared out of nowhere, perfectly intercepting the Jacques leader's body in the air. Crushing, absorbing, and a triple explosion erupted wildly. The pitiful Jacques leader of the 8th grade was actually blasted into pieces just like that, with not even his bones remaining. However, after this slash, Long Houchen could no longer maintain his previous state. His body swayed, and Hao Yue's huge body had already separated. His face was pale, and he supported Hao Yue while gasping for breath. Long Houchen, who had entered his strongest state, had even crossed the threshold of the 8th grade. However, he could only maintain this state for a few seconds. At this moment, he had sunk into a deep state of weakness, especially after using the spirit burning technique. Even though he had cultivated for a long time and experienced the changes of the spirit burning technique, he still needed at least 3 or 4 days to fully recover. Yiting had already separated from the aria of the Goddess of Light. The purple-gold color on the divine sword had already disappeared, and Yiting also looked very dispirited. She directly merged into Long Houchen's body and disappeared. At this moment, the General Class Monster Hunt 64 members did not attack again, but quickly gathered together. Immediately after, a dazzling layer of reddish-gold light enveloped them all. Even Hao Yue hurriedly curled up his body, keeping himself within the range of this 5-meter diameter light cover. The others even had to sit on him to not be abandoned by this reddish-gold light. Han Yu's spiritual stove of light's protection of light was activated. Rich elements of various attributes were injected into everyone's body at an astonishing speed, rapidly recovering their own consumption. That carefree feeling made everyone heave a huge sigh of relief. This spiritual stove of light's protection of light was really too useful. Bathed in the reddish-gold light, apart from the weakened Long Houchen, everyone's spiritual energy was restored to its peak state in a very short period of time. Even the fatigue of their bodies was greatly reduced. On the other side, although it was still very difficult for the King-class monster hunters to resist, they were temporarily not in danger of being defeated, especially after the Jacques leader was killed. The Jacques demons were already panicking. They were no longer able to calmly launch their attacks. Even the remaining 8th grade Jacques leader, after seeing his comrade killed, was not angry but afraid. It was too fast. From the moment the Jacques leader rushed over to the moment of his death, the whole process only took a few minutes. If the opponent could kill an 8th grade Jacques leader, naturally, he could kill a second one. In his opinion, the humans who came later were obviously stronger than the ones who came earlier. After recovering their spiritual energy, Hao Yue and Lin Xian rushed out. Hao Yue was not in the weakened state Long Houchen had been after burning his spirit. Moreover, with its evolution, its recovery ability seemed to have greatly increased. At least until now, Long Houchen had not seen to what extent Hao Yue's limits were. During the previous fusion process, he only felt that his body had reached its limit, and could no longer maintain the state of fusion with Hao Yue. Hao Yue and Lin Xian rushed out, naturally to plunder the magic crystals. Lin Xian thought that his speed was very fast, but compared to Haoyue he was just trash. Haoyue's movements were very simple. He rushed over, stepped on the Jacques demon's corpse, crushed it, opened his mouth, and sucked a magic crystal into his stomach. Although Lin Xian also collected the corpse, his speed was actually not as fast as Haoyue's. However, Haoyue was still very kind. At least he left the 8th grade Jacques leader's magic crystal to Lin Xian. Whether it was for the team's own use or to exchange it for merit points, it was their biggest gain after entering the demons this time. The strong performance of the General Tier Monster Hunt 64 made the scattered Jacques demons not dare to look back. The hundreds of corpses on the ground were quickly plundered by the joint efforts of Lin Xian and Haoyue. As for the other side of the battlefield, the recovered Sima Xian, Wang Yuanyuan, Han Yu, and Kai'er rushed over to assist the King Tier monster hunters. Although they could not kill another Jacques leader, the other party had already lost their fighting spirit and quickly retreated in defeat. The battle was finally over. The King Tier monster hunters in the distance were much more exhausted than Long Haochen and the others. Even if they did not have the strength to thank Long Haochen and the others, they all collapsed on the ground, unable to move. Long Haochen sat cross-legged on the ground, summarizing the process of the previous battle. He secretly sighed in his heart. The strength of himself and his companions had increased. In the past, when facing 8th grade enemies, they had no other choice but to use the conjoined spirit-increasing pill. But this time they were able to openly kill it in a head-on manner. Even compared to the time when they were dealing with the Zombie King, it was much easier. Perhaps, even if he did not use his strongest state, with the cooperation of his companions, he could still kill that guy. Who would have thought that after Yiting had fused the aria of the Goddess of Light, the might of this godly sword would be so terrifying? Although Long Haochen had only experienced the might of an epic-grade equipment for a moment, it was deeply imprinted in his mind. Even a Type 8 powerhouse could not withstand a full blow from him. If not for the tyrannical strength of the aria of the Goddess of Light, even if he was in his strongest state, he would not have been able to directly injure his opponent. At the same time, he also felt that for a weapon at the level of the aria of the Goddess of Light, it was no longer constrained by the addition of skills. It was completely dependent on its own strength. That kind of indestructible sword intent, even if one blocked its main body, would still be injured by the sword intent. Type 8, when could he truly become a Type 8 powerhouse? Long Haochen quietly took out the spiritual energy detection gem from the eternal melody, and slowly infused it with spiritual energy. A number appeared that made him pleasantly surprised. 9,782. It's already over 9,700? No wonder Haoyue and I were able to break through to the Type 8 after fusing and using the spirit burning ability. So my cultivation is already nearing the Type 7 level. Long Haochen had not checked his spiritual energy for a long time, and when he did, he was pleasantly surprised. The speed at which he cultivated as an oracle allowed him to feel the benefit. This time, the reason why he had chosen to complete all the missions was very simple, and that was to help Kai'er awaken as an oracle. Without question, as the reincarnation saintess, she could only awaken as an oracle on the battlefield. This was a secret room. It was not large, only about 10 square meters or so. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that the ceiling, the walls, and the floor were all made of pitch-black crystals. More accurately, this secret room was carved out of a huge black crystal. In the center of the secret room, there was a faint purple light. Upon closer inspection, one would be able to tell that it was coming from a person's body. The gentle purple light continued to spread and retract. Suddenly, the purple light solidified. 2 streaks of light, which seemed almost tangible, glowed brightly in the darkness of the room. It was a pair of eyes that seemed capable of piercing through the heavens and the earth. When the pair of eyes shone on the black crystal in front of him, a series of popping sounds could be heard. His slender body floated into the air, his legs stretched out. Under the cover of the purple light, one could faintly make out his slightly pale, yet extremely handsome face. However, at this moment, his face was filled with astonishment. "Is this its aura?" Feng Xiu muttered to himself, a sharp glint flashing across his eyes. "Huang Shua, your subordinate is here," a deep, resonant voice replied from outside. Demon Emperor Feng Xiu said coldly, "Pass down my orders. Send 10 teams of demon hunters to search the area north of the central province. Focus on the Jacques province. If you encounter any magical beasts with 3 or more heads, kill them and bring their corpses back to me." "Yes, Your Majesty. Do you have any other orders?" Feng Xiu thought for a moment and said, "Ask the star demon to come see me." "Yes." In less than a quarter of an hour, soft footsteps sounded, and an orange-red figure walked over quickly until he was about 10 meters away from Yan Fengxiu. He bowed slightly and said, "Big brother?" His voice was very soft and pleasant to listen to. It even sounded a bit charming, but also somewhat illusory. This was a man whose entire body was emitting an orange-red luster. His figure was similar to that of Demon Emperor Feng Xiu, but a little more slender. His handsome face was comparable to that of the moon demon Agar's. However, his face was a little pale, giving off a slightly weak feeling. His orange-red eyes seemed to carry a layer of hazy mist. His smooth orange-red hair flowed down from the back of his head, like an orange-red waterfall that extended to his calves. The most peculiar thing was that there was an orange-red 6-pointed star imprint on his forehead. If Lin Xian saw his hair, he would definitely jump with envy. "Vashek, how is your body recovering?" Feng Xiu asked in a gentle voice. Obviously, he was very friendly to this orange-red man. If someone underestimated this orange-red man because of his weak appearance, then they would definitely be the unluckiest existence in the world. This was because this seemingly weak, handsome, and even pitiful person was known as the demon's prophet, the great prophet, the star demon Vashek. He was ranked 3rd among the 72 demon god pillars. From a human's point of view, the star demon Vashek was the #1 magician among the demons. He was one of the few demon gods among the 72 demon god pillars who purely used magic, but his strength was unquestionable. In a sense, his position among the demons was even more important than that of the moon demon Agar's. Even the demon emperor had to be careful when facing his great prophecy spell. However, the star demon Vashek rarely appeared on the battlefield. He was the brain of the demons, or rather, the brain of the demon emperor. There were only a few demons who could call the demon emperor elder brother, and in the heart of the demon emperor Feng Xiu, there were only 2 brothers, Agar's and Vashek. About 80% recovered. The star demon Vashek's voice was still so gentle and pleasant. The demon emperor's expression was slightly solemn. "You should have felt it just now. Your perception isn't as far away as mine, but it should be clearer. Is it really him?" The star demon's face seemed to become even paler, but he nodded without hesitation. Feng Xiu narrowed his eyes, as if there was a flash of purple lightning in his eyes. He actually came. But shouldn't he be restricted by the laws of space and unable to leave that place? The star demon sighed softly and shook his head. The long orange hair behind him swayed gently. "I don't know what's going on either, but I can be sure that the current him is far from what he was before. Otherwise, I'm afraid he would have come looking for us. Also, I can be sure that he knows that we are in this world. Big brother, destroying him is our current top priority." At this time, the demon emperor seemed a little hesitant because of the star demon's words. He subconsciously clenched his fists and muttered to himself, "How can I not believe the prophecy you made at the cost of your life? It's just that it seems to be able to hide from my precise detection. It only reveals its brilliance once in a while. How are we going to find it?" The star demon said calmly. The sun-like meteorite descends to the world, bringing with it a thick purple tint. When the sunlight shines in the light of God, the darkness will gradually be dispelled. The dawn shines in the northwest. The ruler of the purple intent has returned. Whether the 72 cages can suppress the light of the sun and destroy the purple intent in its infancy will determine the fate of the cages and the world. This was the prophecy that the star demon obtained at the cost of his own life. The star demon continued. According to the prophecy, there are two things that will bring us destruction. The purple intent is naturally him, but we still don't know who the sun-like meteorite is. It's very likely that it's a rising human. We must pay more attention to the human's situation. The young human that Abao met in Fantasy Paradise last time was very suspicious. If there's a chance, we must kill him. Also, according to the prophecy, this human might be related to him, and their relationship is very close. If that's the case, it'll be easier to lock on to our target. Hearing this, the demon emperor suddenly froze. Him? Could it be him? Big brother, did you think of something? The star demon looked at the demon emperor in surprise. The demon emperor shook his head lightly, a trace of contemplation in his eyes. Chapter 135. Temple League, Sacred City, Great Auction House. An extremely beautiful young girl quietly sat in the backyard of the Sacred Alliance Great Auction House. She wore a long white dress that perfectly showed off her alluring figure. Her eyebrows were like a painting, full of gentleness and an indescribable sense of purity. She just sat there quietly like a fairy. The beautiful scenery in the surrounding courtyard seemed to be colored by her. A young girl wearing a red dress quietly walked behind her and suddenly yelled, "What are you thinking about, little white flower?" The white dress young girl was startled. She suddenly sat up straight and turned her head to see the red dress young girl. She immediately said angrily, "Big Sister Endless, you only know how to scare people. I already said not to call me little white flower. That annoying guy." This young girl was the young master of the Sacred Alliance Great Auction House, Feng Ling Air. As for the one who startled her, it was naturally the Sacred Alliance Great Auction House's chief auctioneer, the amorous Endless Night. Endless Night giggled. "Yeah, I shouldn't call you little white flower. I should call you little chili pepper. You're always so fierce to me. If I don't scold you, I won't be satisfied. Only that idiot would come here every day. However, recently you've been satisfied with your wishes. I've left and won't bother you anymore." Ever since Lin Xian brought Sima Xian to meet Feng Ling Air, Sima Xian fully displayed his love at first sight. Every day, without affecting his cultivation, he would definitely come to the Sacred Alliance Great Auction House to report. Endless Night helped him a lot. At least every time, he could see Feng Ling Air. Then, as Endless Night had said, he was directly scolded away. As for the nickname Little White Flower, of course, it was because Lin Xian, his bad friend, sold out the bald cleric. It also became a joke for Endless Night to make fun of Feng Ling Air. Of course, Lin Xian also secretly helped Sima Xian a lot. At least, every time Sima Xian came, he would bring some good food for Feng Ling Air. This hobby was naturally secretly told to them by Endless Night. The night before he left, Sima Xian brought a bunch of good food for Feng Ling Air. Even now, Feng Ling could still remember the scene. That guy was really strong. He must have brought at least 100 kilograms of food, and it covered his entire body. When she scolded him, he would just laugh foolishly and never talk back. Then, he stopped there and cursed until he was tired of cursing. Only then did he leave. "Take a break and drink some water. You'll get a sore throat if you keep talking loudly. From tomorrow onwards, I won't be able to come and see you." He didn't know how long it would take this time. "Take care of yourself. I know it's impossible for you to fall in love with me, but it doesn't matter. At least you let me experience the feeling of being in love. You can treat me as a crush or a one-sided love, but at least you can't stop me from liking you in my heart. Thank you so much. I've been very happy during this period of time. I didn't know that looking forward to seeing someone every day would make me so happy. I will be satisfied if I can hear your voice every day. Actually, you're right. I'm not good enough for you, and I'm a demon hunter. Every time they carried out a mission, their lives were in danger. How can a man like me give you a sense of security? I understand all of this, but I can't help but like you in my heart. Don't push me. Let me finish talking and I'll leave. Maybe this will be our last goodbye. I don't know if I can come back alive. My only wish is to say everything in my heart and leave without any regret. I want to kill the enemy without any distractions. Is that okay? Don't throw away these snacks, okay? At least don't waste them. Actually, Lin Xin was the one who told me that you like to eat snacks. Am I stupid? Look, I'm sweating talking to you. I've probably said more words today than I have in the past. You can just treat me as a passerby in your life. Once you've passed, you'll forget about me. I hope that my pestering didn't cause you any trouble during this period of time. I just hope that you'll be well. Thank you for letting me say so much. I'm leaving. Although you're very fierce to me, I know that it's all because of me. In my heart, you'll always be a pure and flawless little white flower. Goodbye. I love you. Even though so many days had passed, Feng Linger could still clearly remember that scene. Sima Xian walked out of the courtyard door and suddenly poked his head back. After shouting those 3 words, he turned his head and ran. That appearance of running away filled with a strong sense of satisfaction made Feng Linger's heart throb for the first time. Hey, what are you thinking about? You're thinking so much that you're in a daze. You can't really have fallen for that bald cleric, right? Endless Night said. Who likes him? Feng Linger said in a bad mood. Endless Night giggled and said, That's right, he's not good enough for our little princess. The number of people chasing after you can almost line up from here to the city gate. He's not gentle at all, nor does he know how to curry favor. Every day I came up with the idea to bring some good food. That's right, where's the dried fish he brought before he left? If you don't eat it, don't waste it. Give it all to me, just like before. I'll help you eat it. Feng Linger rolled her eyes. Sister Endless, you're too bad. It's clearly all the food you want to eat, but you're blaming it on me. Don't tell me that if you want it, no one will buy it for you? Endless Night suddenly let out a light sigh and said, Aren't you very curious why I helped that bald cleric get close to you? In the past, I was the one who helped you chase away those wild bees and lascivious butterflies? Feng Linger subconsciously nodded her head. Endless Night said, Because I'm very interested in that group leader of theirs. I really want to see him again and interact with him. That's why I tried to get in touch with the people around him and understand him. He inherited a great-grandfather's god sword. I really want to know what kind of person he is. But, whether it's Lin Xin or that bald cleric, neither of them are willing to say much. They only say that their group leader is always in seclusion. I've never succeeded. Linger, big sister used you. Do you blame me? However, Lin Xin and that Sima Xian aren't bad people. Being normal friends is also pretty good. Feng Linger said, If he's in seclusion, can't you just go and find him? Why do you have to drag me into this? Her words carried a bit of anger, as well as a bit of humiliation. Endless Night laughed bitterly. Because my confidence has disappeared. I still clearly remember the scene that day. A man's eyes can actually be so clear. You can't be moved by him, right? Feng Linger cried out in surprise. Endless Night nodded his head without hiding anything and said, I'm moved, but I'm afraid I don't even have a sliver of a chance. Lin Xin told me before that he already has a confidant, which is their vice group leader. Feng Linger said, So what? They're not married. With my big sister Endless 36 methods, wouldn't it be easy to catch them? Endless Night shook his head and said, Impossible. I have a very strong feeling that this man is not someone I can manipulate. Also, I don't really like him. When I say moved, it's more of a kind of curiosity. Also, through this period of contact, you should have also felt that whether it's Lin Xin or Sima Xian, they are both extremely outstanding existences. In the younger generation of the Alliance, they are all peak elite. I don't really understand Sima Xian, but I've known Lin Xin for a long time. His grandfather is the Magic Temple's Vice-Temple Master, and he himself is the most outstanding potioneering master of the younger generation. Now, he's even a demon hunter. I've secretly checked his cultivation, and he's actually already reached the 6th stage. But just like that, I don't know if you've noticed, but every time I mention their group leader, Long Haochen, their expressions immediately change. Reverence. That's right, reverence. They haven't been demon hunters for long. In other words, Long Haochen's age should be around the same as theirs. But it's this kind of youth that can actually make two of the Alliance's younger generation elites feel reverence. Can be imagined just how outstanding that Long Haochen is. So, my curiosity towards him has grown stronger and stronger. I won't hide it from you. Every time I think back to the look in his eyes when he raised the godly sword, I always feel a sense of inferiority, as if I'm not worthy of him. After saying so much in one breath, Feng Ling who was listening, was already dumbfounded. She was the clearest on how arrogant Endless Night was, but it was this arrogant Endless Night that actually felt inferior towards a man. How inconceivable was this? Sister Endless, do you think they'll be able to come back alive? Feng Ling asked in a low voice. Endless Night lightly shook his head. I don't know either. Feng Ling's elegant eyebrows slightly knitted, saying, Didn't you say they were very strong? And that mysterious group leader. That person really doesn't seem to be ordinary. Endless Night said, Being strong is a double-edged sword. It's because of their strength that the quests they choose to accept are definitely not ordinary. Lin Xin is only a bit over 20. If the others are around his age, then their entire team shouldn't even be 25. But I heard Lin Xin say that they're already commander-level monster hunters. This means that their overall strength surpasses the 6th stage, and the quests they accept are also commander level. She didn't know why, but after hearing Endless Night's words, Feng Ling suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable in her heart. She blurted out, Sister Endless, don't eat the things that guy gave me anymore. I'll keep them for myself. Endless Night looked at her with a strange expression. Feng Ling acted as if she didn't see it. I hope they can all come back alive. The battlefield had already been cleaned up. After a short rest, the two teams of monster hunters had recovered a bit. Especially that king-level monster hunters. They cut a sorry figure. Hello, I am the king-level number 17 monster hunters group leader, Guardian Knight Sky Qing. Thank you for your assistance. The Mithril Foundation Knight had already taken off his helmet, revealing a slightly weathered but extremely resolute face. He looked to be around 35 or 36 years old. His palms were wide and strong. Long Haochen extended his hand and shook his hand, but used honorifics. Hello, we are Commander-level Monster Hunt 64. I am the group leader Long Haochen. It's my honor to fight alongside you. Commander-level? Sky Qing's expression went blank. Brother, you're not joking, right? In the time it took to say this, Long Haochen had already lifted his hand and lifted the cloak covering his head. He also pulled down the yellow sand veil covering his face. Looking at his handsome, young face, Sky Qing suddenly became speechless. Not only him, but his companions in the group also felt the same way. Just now, when Long Haochen had displayed his powerful strength, they were filled with extreme shock. The only thing they didn't understand was why Long Haochen didn't wear the Mithril Foundation battle armor. With his strength of severely injuring a Jacques demon of the 8th rank with 2 swords, becoming a Mithril Foundation knight shouldn't be a problem, unless he had a better choice of equipment. It's really too unexpected. You are actually so young. But in any case, on behalf of me and my companions, I sincerely thank you for your timely rescue. If you hadn't appeared in time, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to escape today. Long Houchen asked with slight doubt, Senior, with the strength of your group, it shouldn't have been difficult to deal with 2 Jacques demons. How could? The promotion of monster hunters from the commander tier to the king tier was definitely a qualitative leap. Not only did they have to pay 1,000,000 merit points, they also had to raise their cultivation to the 7th rank. Being willing to pay so many merit points undoubtedly proved that this group of monster hunters already had powerful enough equipment. Although they were only at the 7th rank, it wasn't difficult for a group of monster hunters made up of experts of the 7th rank to deal with 2 demons of the 8th rank, especially since the Jacques demons didn't have the inheritance of the demon god. As for those low-level Jacques demons, it was needless to say, as could be seen from Long Houchen and the others' previous battle. Sky Qing smiled bitterly and said, "Don't mention it, this time was really unlucky. Our original mission was to enter Jacques City to kill the 2 Jacques leaders of the 8th rank, but who knew that when we were ambushing the Jacques leaders, we would be ambushed by a group of demons. Although we severely injured the opponents, we also suffered a great loss. Out of 6 people, 4 were injured, and our spiritual power was also greatly consumed. Although we recovered a little with the help of medicine, the Jacques demons surrounded us at this time. It wasn't easy to break out of the encirclement, but because of the annoying spore demons in the sky, we couldn't shake them off. You know what happened next?" "Demon hunters? What's that?" Long Houchen asked doubtfully. Sky Qing said, "To be precise, the demon hunters are somewhat similar to our monster hunters. It is a new organization that the demons specifically established to deal with us. It has been established for about a year. As the strength of the alliance grows stronger, the battle strength of our monster hunters has always been increasing. The demons are becoming more and more aware of our destructive power against the demons. They have no choice but to come up with some measures to deal with it. The demon hunter extermination was like this. The so-called demon hunter extermination was formed by selecting some elites from the devil race. Each demon hunter team is composed of 10 members, and the leader is always a powerhouse of the 8th rank. Some of the teams with the leaders of the Defiant Demon Dragon Clan, Moon Devils, and Star Demons are the most powerful. The overall strength of the team members is above the 7th rank. There are even a few particularly powerful demon hunters made up of powerhouses of the 9th rank demons. We are currently investigating the specific classification of the demon hunters. The reason why our monster hunters dare to carry out various tasks in the territory of the demons is mainly because of the loose internal structure of the demons. These demon hunters can't enter the territory of our alliance, they don't dare. After all, the appearance and aura of the demons are very different from us humans, and the number of demons that are completely in human form is relatively small. They don't dare to take the risk. Therefore, these demon hunters focus all their energy on dealing with us in the territory of the demons. In this more than a year, at least 10 monster hunters have fallen in their hands. This time, we almost suffered a big loss. Long Houchen took a deep breath and said, "Do you know how many demon hunters there are now?" Sky Qing said, "According to the information we received, when the demon hunters were first established, there were about 100 teams under the direct command of the Demon Emperor. They only listened to the orders of the Demon Emperor. From now on, you must be careful when you move around the demons. These demon hunters are very difficult to deal with. Some of them even have some powerful equipment on them. Although they are modeled after us monster hunters, the demons have their natural advantages. High-level demons don't need too much training to have the strength of the 7th rank or above." Long Houchen said, "In that case, we must leave this place as soon as possible. Those Jacques demons that fled will definitely leak our whereabouts to the demon hunters." Sky Qing nodded and said, "Exactly. How about this, you come with us to the nearest regiment headquarters?" Long Houchen hesitated for a moment and said, "This is against the rules. At our level, we don't have the right to enter the regiment headquarters." The so-called regiment headquarters were the secret strongholds of the monster hunters in the territory of the demons. They were specially provided for king tier and above monster hunters to rest and resupply. It wasn't that they discriminated against low-level monster hunters, but because low-level monster hunters themselves didn't have to carry out tasks that were too difficult. However, the establishment of these regiment headquarters in the demons consumed too much manpower, material resources, and resources of the Alliance. Therefore, it was natural that they were given priority to the powerful monster hunters. For example, the fallen demon god monster hunters hidden in the heart of the demon capital was hidden in one of the regiment headquarters in the heart of the demon capital. The demon emperor had ordered a thorough investigation of the heart of the city, but in the end, they still couldn't dig out this regiment headquarters. From this, it could be seen how powerful the role of the regiment headquarters was. Sky Qing patted Long Haochen's shoulder and said, "Don't say such polite words. Rules are dead, people are alive. Is the regiment headquarters really not given to general tier and commander tier monster hunters? As long as there is a king tier or above team leading it, there won't be a problem. Let's go, the nearest regiment headquarters is in the city of Great Jacques. Aren't they chasing us? In that case, we'll just do the opposite and go back. I really don't want to leave just like that. After we rest and reorganize, we will definitely turn Great Jacques upside down." As he spoke, the eyes of this powerful Mithril Foundation knight were already shining brightly. To be able to become a king-tier demon hunter, which one of them didn't go through continuous battles with the demons. Without a strong temperament, how could they advance all the way? Who knew how many strong demons' blood they had stained their hands? Heavenly Crystal and his team were obviously very familiar with the surrounding terrain. Under his lead, the two demon hunt squads took a long detour, and it took them an entire day to reach the city of Great Jacques while advancing at full speed. Unlike Long Haochen and the others who disguised themselves as moon devils, the 17th King tier monster hunters also had their own methods. They used something called the illusion mimicry gem to transform themselves into the appearance of a Jacques demon. This way, they surrounded Long Haochen and the others and entered Great Jacques City together. Great Jacques City seemed to be a bit chaotic. The city's defenses were not strict. At least, they didn't search Long Haochen and the others before letting them enter the city. Sky Qing told Long Haochen that the illusion mimicry gem could transform into stored illusions with the support of spiritual power. Storing illusions was a more troublesome process. However, in the territory of the demons, it was a necessary treasure for some powerful monster hunters. Long Haochen and the others had just entered the commander tier and had not yet come into contact with this kind of thing. Although Great Jacques City was the capital of the Jacques province, it was not very big. Like most of the cities of the demons, it was also a bit dilapidated. Sky Qing brought Long Haochen and the others to a restaurant opened by humans and went directly into the kitchen. The following process was really an eye-opener for Long Haochen and the others. The kitchen in the back moved horizontally, revealing the entrance to the cave. The 13 people filed in, and the kitchen above was completely closed. What surprised Long Haochen even more was that when the entrance above was closed, he couldn't feel anything outside even with his powerful perception. In other words, the entrance to the cave had the ability to completely block the outside world. When they first entered the cave, Long Haochen saw that when the kitchen moved horizontally, the ground at the entrance was more than a meter thick. There was no doubt that there were precious special metals integrated into it, and there may even be magic arrays engraved. It should be known that Great Jacques City was not an important town in the demons, but such a large investment was needed. It was no wonder that the monster hunters could thrive in the territory of the demons. On both sides of the tunnel there were special crystals that could self-illuminate, and there was obviously a very good ventilation system here, so it was not stuffy at all. They went all the way down, a full 30 meters underground before it became parallel to the front. After another 20 meters, small rooms began to appear on both sides. The layout of each room was very simple, with a bed, a table, and a chair. There were about 20 rooms in the whole tunnel, enough to accommodate 3 monster hunters to rest here. But at this time there was no one. There was also a special warehouse inside, which stored a lot of food and clean water. Let's take a break. Brother Long, shall we talk for a while? Sky Ching said to Long Houchen. Long Houchen nodded. The two entered a room inside. The others naturally looked for their own rooms to rest. Sky Ching asked Long Houchen to sit down and said, "At present there are only our 2 monster hunters here, so I won't say any words of thanks. This kindness will always be remembered in the hearts of the 17th King class monster hunters. You also don't need to call me senior, we can directly call each other by name." Sky Ching's character was very straightforward, but he didn't ask Long Houchen about their age or the secret technique they used to kill the rank 8 Jacques leader. Every monster hunters had their own secrets, even if they were fellow soldiers. It was not good to ask others about their secrets. "Okay." Long Houchen also agreed. Sky Ching said in a deep voice, "This time we can be said to have suffered a big loss and almost lost our lives here. I'm very unwilling. However, this time the Jacques clan was also hit hard by you, especially the death of a Jacques leader, which has a great impact on Great Jacques City. This will inevitably lead to changes in the entire Jacques clan. I estimate that there will be more demon hunter removers coming here to look for traces of us. I have an idea, let's discuss it and see if it is feasible." Long Houchen said, "Big brother Sky Ching, please say it." Sky Ching said, "What mission are you going to carry out in this demons? My plan may require a considerable amount of time to complete. If your mission is urgent, you can rest here and then leave. There are 2 passages from our regiment that lead to the outside of the city. You can directly leave the city." Long Houchen said, "We don't have any urgent mission. This time we received some killing missions and entered the territory of the demons. Speaking of which, we still have to thank you. One of our missions was to kill 100 Jacques demons, which was completed ahead of time." Sky Ching said, "In this case there is no problem. Didn't those demon hunter removers want to get rid of us monster hunters? Moreover, they have already brought us so many losses. If we don't retaliate, wouldn't the demons be arrogant? Since the demon hunter removers will definitely come here to investigate our traces, then we—" As he said this, his eyes were already full of fierceness. His right hand slashed horizontally in the air, bringing with it an ear-piercing sound. "Ambush the demon hunter removers?" Long Houchen asked. Sky Ching nodded. "There are spies from our regiment in Great Jacques City. However, before the ambush, we must lie low for a period of time, at least half a month, in order to numb the demon hunter removers. If I remember correctly, many of your commander-level hunting missions are aimed at rank 7 demons. The demon hunter removers are mainly composed of rank 7 demons ranked in the top 10 demons. In this way, it is equivalent to you carrying out a mission. How about it? Are you interested? It is very dangerous. Think carefully before you answer me. Once it is confirmed, we will start to arrange the plan." Long Houchen said without hesitation, "Good, we will cooperate with you." Sky Ching looked at him with some surprise. Long Houchen smiled slightly and said, "To tell you the truth, this time we have accepted 16 slaughter missions for the demons. Facing the demon hunter removers here is better than sneaking into the heart of the demon city to kill them. After all, the moon devils, star demons, and the demons are only active in the heart of the city. Our target is also them. If we can complete it here, naturally it will be the best. Moreover, there is also your cooperation." Tian Qing was stunned as he looked at him. 16 slaughter missions? You really dare to accept them? In the absence of the regiment's support, do you plan to live in the demons for a long time? Sure enough, the more daring you are, the more productive you are. No wonder you are so strong at such a young age. Long Houchen laughed and said, "Since we are going to ambush the demon hunter removers, then reconnaissance is very important. Can the spies here complete it? Sky Qing nodded and said, "You can rest assured about this. Although the establishment of the regiment is a huge investment, it is also a huge help to us. The spies here are all humans who have integrated into the demon's society. Moreover, they are made up of many people. Every once in a while, there will be news sent to us, enough for us to make a judgment. Of course, it is impossible for us to ambush all the demon hunter removers, so we must lie low for a period of time. When the number of demon hunter removers here is reduced to a certain extent, then we will look for an opportunity. You can rest assured that with this lesson, we will be more careful and never give them another chance." After the plan was settled, the two teams of monster hunters stayed here to treat their injuries and restore their bodies. After Long Houchen's strong burst, he was weak for a full 7 days before he fully recovered. It can be seen that the real fusion with Haoyue stimulated his potential. But this kind of overdraft stimulation not only cannot last long, but also has huge side effects. Yiting was also weak for a long time, and only recovered on the 5th day or so. But she also passed on a message to Long Houchen. The divine sword aria of the goddess of light could completely bear her fusion, and even had a kind of frightening situation of absorbing her to become a fixed sword spirit, which made Yiting somewhat afraid. If she was not strong enough, perhaps she would not be able to separate herself, and if she really completely fused with the aria of the goddess of light, then it would undoubtedly reproduce the true appearance of the divine sword. But in that case, Long Houchen would also lose Yiting. At the same time, with his current strength, he was still far from being able to control the true aria of the goddess of light. Fortunately, Yiting was not an ordinary light elemental spirit. She had already gone through 3 evolutions and had fused with the saint's spiritual stove. Her own wisdom and thinking ability had been greatly improved. As long as she did not want to, even the aria of the goddess of light could not forcibly absorb her as a sword spirit. In these 7 days, there was a constant flow of news from outside, and Tianqing did not hold back to share it with Long Houchen. What made them inexplicably surprised was that Jacques City suddenly became lively. According to the reports of their informants, they found at least 7 or 8 groups similar to the demon hunter demons. With the strength of their 2 groups of monster hunters, dealing with one group of demon hunters was not a problem. If they were to deal with 2 groups, they also had a chance, and the chances of winning were relatively large. But if they were to face 3 groups of demon hunters, especially if they were entangled by the enemy, and the enemy might have reinforcements, they would undoubtedly lose. Long Houchen and the others were fine. In any case, they had the Tower of Eternity as a retreat route, but Tianqing and the others could not. With Long Houchen's current cultivation, even if he had the heart to bring them into the Tower of Eternity, he did not have that kind of ability. What's more, the secret of the Tower of Eternity should not be leaked as much as possible. Therefore, the 2 groups of monster hunters could only continue to rest here, and did not dare to easily leave. The Jacques race mobilized a large number of manpower to carry out a carpet search in the city, as if they had gone crazy. It lasted for a full 3 days before they gradually calmed down. Fortunately, the regiment headquarters was extremely secretive, and the camouflage outside was good enough, so they were not discovered. This also made Long Houchen more and more aware of the importance of the regiment headquarters to the monster hunters. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Long Houchen's whole body was immersed in the sea of light. Since his God-favored physique was awakened, the speed of his cultivation could be described as 1,000 miles a day. In his chest, the golden spiritual aperture was different from before. At this time, the spiritual aperture was about the size of an egg, exuding a soft golden light. Every time Long Houchen breathed, there would be a clear feeling of light elements being inhaled. The liquid spiritual power surrounding the spiritual aperture was like a cluster of stars hovering around the spiritual aperture. The extremely viscous liquid spiritual power did not seem to be moving very fast, but it was so pure and condensed. Long Houchen's cultivation was already very close to the 7th rank, but even an ordinary 7th rank powerhouse would definitely not be able to compete with him in terms of spiritual power consumption. The reason was very simple: Long Houchen's spiritual power was much purer than theirs, and using the same skills, the consumption of spiritual power was naturally much lower. If it was an ordinary light element professional, even if they could refine spiritual power to this degree, their cultivation speed would definitely be greatly affected, and it would be very difficult to improve. But Long Houchen only felt that his spiritual power increasing was as easy as breathing. It must be known that in the past year of seclusion, if he hadn't spent a lot of time leading his companions in the 2nd floor of the Tower of Eternity to practice aerial combat and various combat skills, as well as the new skills he learned from the Alliance after becoming a commander-level monster hunters, his cultivation would have long reached the peak of the 6th rank bottleneck. The reason why Long Houchen did not do so was because of accumulation. After many years of cultivation, Long Houchen found that when his cultivation reached a plateau, the difficulty of breaking through was mainly due to the lack of accumulation. Breaking through in spiritual power not only required understanding and control of spiritual power, but also the corresponding combat experience. After all, spiritual power could only be cycled through continuous use. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 6th rank, but continued to accumulate. He believed that this way, when he reached the bottleneck of the 6th rank, breaking through to the 7th rank would be much easier. In his mind, the memories left by his father gradually came back. The change from the 6th rank to the 7th rank is also a leap in quality. Condensing the spiritual aperture at the 6th rank means that a professional has become a powerhouse from an ordinary person. After condensing the spiritual aperture, one can only last for a long time in battle. The spiritual aperture is condensed in the chest, that is also where our spiritual power gathers. But, how much spiritual power can we bear? Only 10,000. In other words, when the tolerance of a spiritual aperture reaches its limit, your cultivation can no longer continue to increase. If you forcefully break through this limit, it is very likely that the spiritual aperture will be damaged, bringing about a fatal crisis to yourself. Therefore, the process of advancing from the 6th rank to the 7th rank is no longer a breakthrough, but a creation. How can we continue to increase our strength? One spiritual aperture has already reached its limit, so why don't we open more spiritual apertures? Therefore, there is a way to break through from the 6th rank to the 7th rank. Open the 2nd and 3rd spiritual apertures. This sequence cannot be wrong, otherwise you will not be able to bear it. The 2nd spiritual aperture is located in the lower abdomen, and the 3rd spiritual aperture is located in your brain. When the 2nd spiritual aperture is created, it means that you have broken through to the 7th rank, and when your spiritual power fills the 2nd spiritual aperture, it is time to build the 3rd spiritual aperture. This will also be one of the biggest dangers you will encounter in the process of cultivation, so you must be careful and remember not to advance rashly. I cannot tell you the specific method of building the spiritual aperture, you will have to rely on yourself to comprehend it. Chapter 136. Recalling his father's teachings, Long Houchen's heart gradually warmed up. Dad, I'm going to break through to the 7th rank. Can you think of it? I'm not even 17 yet. When I break through to the 7th rank, I'll go to the Basilica of the Knights to find you and Mom. That's after I complete the killing mission. After completing the killing mission, I have to take the Mithril Base Knight assessment first. I must appear in front of you wearing the silver Mithril Base armor. Thinking of this, a sense of pride welled up in Long Houchen's heart. Indeed, even he didn't expect that his own cultivation speed could reach the 7th rank so quickly. This was really an incredible speed. Since separating from his parents, Long Houchen's life could be said to be very fulfilling. He trained hard, completed missions with his partners, and had Kai by his side. However, every night, he couldn't help but think of his parents and miss them deeply. His mother's gentleness and love, his father's strictness and strength, were all deeply imprinted in his mind. One of the most profound memories of Long Houchen's life was the moment when he and his father were sneak attacked by demons in Odentown, and his father revealed the throne of God. That scene was also something he could never forget. Although Long Houchen was still very young at that time, he had secretly vowed that one day, he must sit on the throne of God like his father. Kai sat opposite Long Houchen. Since entering the demon's territory, the General Class Monster Hunt 64 had lost the relaxation they had in the Alliance and was completely in a state of tension. All the spare time was used for cultivation. The benefits brought to them by a year of retreat were gradually showing. The long-term accumulation made everyone's spiritual power cultivation speed improve a lot, especially the control of their spiritual apertures was far better than when they just broke through to the 6th rank. During the 1 year of seclusion, Long Houchen had brought his partners to the Tower of Eternity for actual combat, so that everyone could familiarize themselves with the spiritual acupoints through constant battles and feel the changes in the spiritual acupoints. What he did was undoubtedly the right thing to do, because apart from him and Kai, the other 5 companions' breakthroughs to the 6th Order could be said to have received help from illusory paradise. Their foundations were not solid, and after a year of hard work, they could be considered to have truly stabilized their cultivation. In addition, the Tower of Eternity could be said to have brought about the best way for each of their companions to improve. Kai's spiritual power was second only to Long Houchen's, and she had just broken through to 7,000 in the past few days. Most of her friends were also hovering around 6,000. This speed was already very shocking. Apart from Kai, the fastest spiritual power improvement was naturally Long Houchen's 2 retainers. With the help of talent suppression sharing, with their innate internal spiritual power of 80, Han Yu and Sima Xian also improved very quickly. Chen Ying's cultivation was still the slowest, but for some reason, everyone could feel that Chen Ying's temperament was gradually changing. Grand Jacques City. After a few days of turmoil, the capital of the Jacques province gradually returned to peace. However, a few days ago, the blow from the Temple League's monster hunters still dealt a heavy blow to the Jacques race, a race that was not very strong in the first place. Because of their slow reproduction speed, the Jacques race had always been rarely on the battlefield, and the total number of troops was also maintained at a low number. The blow this time could be said to be quite huge, especially the death of a Jacques leader, which was even more damaging to the vitality of the Jacques race. A team of 10 people was proudly entering Grand Jacques City from the East City Gate. Walking at the forefront was a tall man covered in a large orange cloak. This cloak exuded strong spiritual power fluctuations, had already made clear his identity. Star demons. The 9 demons following behind him were of different shapes and sizes, but all of them exuded a powerful aura. They strode through the streets of Grand Jacques City with their heads held high, and all the demons and human residents in the city dodged to the side. There was no doubt that this team was a Demon Hunter Extermination Group. The first batch of Demon Hunter Extermination Group was established, and there were a total of 100 groups under the direct leadership of the Demon Emperor. Therefore, to be able to become a member of the Demon Hunter Extermination Group, one could imagine the arrogance in the hearts of these demons. The Demon Emperor's status among the demons was supreme, and the establishment of the Demon Hunter Extermination Group undoubtedly further consolidated his ruling position, but no race dared to raise any objections. And after the Demon Hunter Extermination Group was established, it indeed had an immediate effect. There were already many Temple League monster hunters who had suffered at their hands. There were casualties, and there were even teams that were wiped out. And this powerful force of the Demon Hunter Extermination Group existed specifically to deal with the monster hunters. The 100 Demon Hunter Extermination Groups were also divided into strong and weak, from strong to weak. The 3 strongest demon hunter extermination groups were all led by the top 36 demon gods, and their members were all Type 9 powerhouses. Therefore, they were also known as the Demon God Group. These were 30 Type 9 powerhouses, and their strength could be imagined. The reason why the Demon Hunter Extermination Group consisted of 10 people was specifically to deal with the 6 monster hunters. Apart from the Demon God Group, next was the Demon King Group. The characteristic of the Demon King Group was very simple. The leader was definitely a Type 9. The Demon King Group had a total of 10 group. Following them were the Dragon Group, Moon Group, Star Group, and Demon Group. As the name suggested, the leader of the Dragon Group was naturally a heaven-defying demon dragon. The Moon and Star Groups were naturally led by Moon Devils and Star Demons, while the Demon Group was a miscellaneous group. There were 10 Dragon, Moon, and Star Groups, and the rest were all Demon Group. In terms of strength, apart from the Demon God Group and Demon King Group, the remaining 4 Demon Hunter Extermination Groups were actually not too far apart. However, with the heaven-defying Demon Dragon, Moon Devils, and Star Demons as leaders, the cohesiveness of the groups would be stronger, and their overall strength would be slightly stronger. The Demon Hunter Extermination Group before them was undoubtedly the Star Group. Xing Xian had been a little depressed these few days. The Demon Hunter Extermination Group had been established for more than a year, but for some reason, their luck had not been very good. They had never encountered any human monster hunters. As the team leader, Xing Xian was very eager to fight with human monster hunters. After the establishment of the Demon Hunter Extermination Group, they received a comprehensive allocation of resources from the demons. All the human alchemists and craftsmen controlled by the demons were all forging equipment for them. However, the equipment was obviously not given for free. Only by killing members of the monster hunters would they receive more preferential treatment. However, it was not easy to find monster hunters. At least, they had not encountered them yet, so they had not received any rewards. 10 days ago, the Demon Emperor suddenly ordered them to search the area of Jacques Province. They had been searching for 10 days, but not even the shadow of a monster hunter was seen. The rest of the demon hunters had already gone back to report or patrolled in other places. The higher-ups had issued an order to leave 3 groups of demon hunters, including theirs, to continue the search in the vicinity of Grand Jacques City, and it would last for a month. Team Leader, this order from above is 2F** Ket up. Are we patrolling the air? We might as well go to the border to attack the Temple League army, said a very majestic demon behind Xing Xian. This guy was more than 3.5 meters tall, and the widest part of his shoulders was nearly 2 meters wide. His thick arms were like giant pillars. His whole body was covered with long black hair, and he had a full beard on his face. His overall appearance was somewhat human-like, but the fangs in his mouth and the black hair on his body revealed his true identity. One of the strongest races of the demons, the Bear Demon. The Bear Veilfar ranked 6th among the 72 demon god pillars of the demons. He was extremely powerful, and his body was like an iron wall. The Bear Demon under his banner was the backbone of the demons. If the heaven-defying demon dragon was the king of the demons, the star demons were the brains of the demons, and the moon devils were the souls of the demons, then the Bear Demon was the barrier of the demons. A solid barrier. Their terrifying strength and defense made them invincible on the battlefield. This was a terrifying race that relied on external spiritual power to cultivate to the 9th rank. Of course, they also had a disadvantage. No matter how powerful the Bear Demons were, they couldn't fly. Xing Xian snorted coldly. Cut the crap. Just do as the higher-ups say. It's already noon. Let's find a place to eat first. The Bear Demons smiled and didn't say another word. Their huge body stood behind Xing Xian like a barrier. In this team, he and Xing Xian had the highest status. The other members were just ordinary 7th rank. He was at the peak of 7th rank, and Xing Xian was an 8th rank powerhouse. The 8th rank star demons were definitely terrifying existences. The group of 10 demons walked slowly into the city, looking for a place to eat. As demon hunters, they naturally wouldn't pay for their meals. And just the bear demon alone could bankrupt an entire restaurant with his food. As he walked forward, Xing Xian's expression suddenly changed. He stopped in his tracks and abruptly slammed the magic staff in his right hand onto the ground. A layer of intense orange light abruptly spread out with his body as the center. An illusory figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. An ear-piercing tearing sound erupted from the spreading orange light. Xing Xian grunted and took half a step back. There was already a long wound on his chest. Fortunately, a necklace around his neck emitted a strong black light and protected his vitals. This was only a minor injury. Human assassin! Xing Xian snorted angrily. He raised the staff in his hand again, and the terrifying and sticky dark element rushed towards the figure that had already appeared. Elemental impact. This was the most effective and fastest attack of an 8th rank mage. Mages were indeed most afraid of assassins. However, once their figure was caught or the distance was pulled apart, then the assassin could only be a target for the mage. Of course, Xing Xian didn't need to pull apart. The moment he was attacked, the bear demons had already moved in front of him. The other demons also swarmed forward, surrounding the assassin in white like bolts of lightning. However, the assassin didn't stop. After the attack, he immediately turned around and fled. His spiritual wings broke out from his back, and he flapped them with all his might. He fled into the distance as fast as lightning. But how could Xing Xian let him go? The deep and rapid chanting was like ice water exploding like boiling oil. The staff in his hand pointed forward, and a large orange hand appeared out of thin air, grabbing the assassin. Star Demon's Grip, a powerful control spell of the Star Demons. In Xing Xian's eyes, the assassin was already a dead man. As the strongest magic race among the demons, the Star Demons were born with powerful senses. It was this powerful sense that saved his life. He had sensed the existence of the assassin at the most critical moment just now. Even though he was an 8th rank powerhouse, he was still vulnerable in the face of an assassin. After all, the Star Demons were a pure magic race. The Star Demons that released magic were extremely powerful, but it was a different story if he was attacked unprepared. Through the assassin's previous attack, he could feel that this was a 7th rank human assassin. Moreover, his cultivation was quite strong, at least around 7th rank level 5. Otherwise, he wouldn't have discovered it only after the assassin got close. He even broke the defensive equipment on his body. But so what? Star Demon's Grip was the innate magic of the Star Demons. Although it required chanting to cast, the casting speed was extremely fast. It was also a powerful 7th rank control spell. An assassin couldn't break free in a short period of time, and this time was enough for his companions to tear him into pieces. However, just as the cold killing intent filled Xing Xian's eyes, the assassin who was controlled by Star Demon's Grip gave him a great shock. A strong murderous aura erupted from the assassin's body. Then, a layer of dark golden light suddenly flashed like a raging storm. Countless dark golden light blades instantly exploded like firecrackers. With a loud bang, the restrictions of the Star Demon's grasp were broken. At the same time, on a house 100 meters away, a white light flashed instantly and fell on the assassin. The strong pull instantly changed the direction of the assassin, and he was pulled away as if he was flying. "Chase and kill them!" Xing Xian roared. An orange light shone on his back, and his spiritual wings broke out of his body. The other demons also showed their own abilities. Except for the bear demons who couldn't fly, the other demons quickly rushed towards the location where the white light appeared. At this time, among the Star Demon hunters, the bear demons ran at the far end. At this time, they had just rushed to the position where the assassin was. The other demons flew up and chased in the direction where the white light appeared. As the team leader, Xing Xian fell behind. Suddenly, Xing Xian, who was accelerating forward, felt a chill all over his body, and an inexplicable sense of fear suddenly appeared in his heart. In his perception, he didn't feel any enemy or danger. But his instinct told him that a crisis of near destruction was in front of him. As a Stage 8 powerhouse, Xing Xian didn't even have time to think. His eyes flashed, and a strong orange light suddenly spread out from his body in all directions, bombarding the air. Nothing? Because he felt that his life was threatened, Xing Xian used all his strength in this attack. The elemental impact of a Stage 8 powerhouse was terrifying. It blasted out more than 100 meters in diameter. Fortunately, he was flying in the air at this time and not on the ground. Otherwise, Grand Jacques City would have suffered. However, to his surprise, his attacks in all directions did not have the slightest effect. The instinctive sense of crisis showed no signs of subsiding. Instead, it became stronger. No, it was not the surroundings. Xing Xian suddenly realized that his defense was missing one direction, the sky. It was also at this time that a bleak gray light appeared quietly. There was no sound of breaking through the air, nor was there any spiritual power fluctuation, but it gave people a poignant and moving feeling. There wasn't even a figure showing up. There was only the gray light that seemed to condense reincarnation. After all, Xing Xian's reaction was too late. All he could do now was to burn his own spiritual power. With a roar, his spiritual wings curled up and his magic staff raised. However, the all-out attack in all directions had consumed a lot of his own spiritual power. Even a Stage 8 powerhouse would need at least a short period of time to recover the spiritual power that had just been consumed after releasing an all-out attack. However, that poignant and beautiful gray color descended at this very moment. The timing was perfect, and it could be said to be perfect. It was also at this moment that all the demon hunter removers paused and subconsciously looked at the sky, because the sense of crisis had also appeared in their instincts. The sky also darkened at this moment. The sky turned gray as if it was instantly shrouded by dark clouds, and the cold killing intent was like a natural moat. Pfft! The spiritual wings, the magic staff, the skull, and the rapidly burning spiritual power could not stop the poignant gray light from entering. Xing Xian's eyes were filled with disbelief, and his body had already frozen in midair. It was also at this moment that a pair of pitch-black spiritual wings spread out in midair, revealing a beautiful figure. It was also at this moment that a golden figure appeared like a bolt of lightning and arrived behind the black spiritual wings. A golden light suddenly bloomed from his chest, and in the next instant, the figure with the black spiritual wings that the demon hunter removers had spread out disappeared into the golden light. Only then did Xing Xian, who was still in a daze, slowly fall from the sky. His body was even burning with the unique orange spiritual power of the star demons. However, his soul had already been destroyed, and he had entered the cycle of reincarnation. The golden light flashed again, and the golden figure swept past. The corpse of the 8th Order star demon, Xing Xian, disappeared just like that. The golden figure also drew a beautiful arc in the sky, and went straight for a cloud in the sky. All the demon hunter removers were dumbfounded. They could not imagine what had just happened. How was it possible that Xing Xian had died just like that? Unbelievably, he had died? More importantly, based on what they sensed, the enemy that had appeared did not seem to be very strong. However, they had done it. Xing Xian, an 8th Order star demon, had died under their sneak attack. How was that possible? The bear demons roared, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and chase after him." As he roared, he stomped his right foot heavily on the ground, and there was a deafening explosion. Large areas of the surrounding houses were turned into ruins. Only then did the other demon hunter removers react. 8 7th Order demon powerhouses quickly chased after the golden figure that was rapidly shrinking in the sky. The bear demons could not fly, so they could only stand on the spot and look up at the sky. They were surprised to find that the golden figure had 4 spiritual wings, and its flying speed seemed to be far faster than the demon hunter removers. In the blink of an eye, it had already disappeared into the clouds. Suddenly, the demonic bear shuddered. "The clouds, could it be? Don't go, come back," he roared at the sky. However, while he was in the city, the other demon hunter removers were already hundreds of meters up in the sky. The sound of the wind, air flow, and spiritual energy fluctuations had already drowned out his roar. He could only watch helplessly as the 8 demon hunter removers disappeared into the clouds. The bear demons' huge bodies suddenly felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. They had been tricked, they had definitely been tricked. From the moment the first assassin appeared, was repelled, and was rescued, they seemed to have fallen into an intricate trap. Xing Xian had fallen, and the demon hunter removers had fallen into a leaderless state. In their anger and panic, they had completely fallen into the enemy's trap. However, it was too late to turn back now. The bear demons had well-developed limbs, but their brains were not simple. On the contrary, as high-level demons, their intelligence was not inferior to Xing Xian's. After a brief moment of sluggishness, he immediately raised his hand and threw out a kind black metal ball. The metal ball broke through the air and exploded in mid-air, turning into a huge purplish-black halo that spread out. This was the demon hunter remover's distress signal. All he could do now was hope that the other demon hunter removers could arrive in time, and that his companions could hold on under the ambush of the monster hunters. Judging from the strength of the humans before, they should have encountered the king-tier monster hunters of the Temple League. After all, they had 8 rank 7 powerhouses in the air. Even if they encountered the king-tier monster hunters, they should be able to resist them for a while. Unfortunately, the bear demons were wrong. Although they had encountered the king-tier monster hunters, there was another group of commander-tier monster hunters that was no less dangerous than the king-tier. In the clouds, the real main force of this ambush lay in ambush. There were 5 king-tier monster hunters and 5 commander-tier monster hunters. In an instant, the clouds in the sky had already become gorgeous and colorful. The duration of the battle was very short. Accompanied by a series of dull booms, the leaderless star team quickly perished, except for the demon hunters. Although these demon hunter removers were all rank 7, without the leadership of Xing Xian and the bear demons, how could they compete with the elite king-tier and commander-tier monster hunters of the Temple League? 10 against 8, there was no suspense. When the last corpse was collected, Long Haochen and Tian Qing exchanged glances. Everyone flapped their spiritual wings and flew towards the escape route they had planned. After lying low for more than 10 days, they had finally waited for the opportunity. As early as before Xing Xian and the others entered Great Jacques City, they had already been targeted. The strategy was very simple. 2 monster hunters assassins would ambush the opposing star demon team leader. Long Haochen would rely on Yuting's Saint Spiritual Stove to provide support from the side. Moreover, they would lure the enemy into the air. However, in the original plan, the responsibility of Kai and one of the assassins was only to injure the star demon as much as possible so that he could not participate in the battle. But no one would have thought that the star demon would actually perish under Kai-Er's reincarnation sword. The ones who were the most shocked were naturally the king-tier 17 monster hunters. They never would have thought that the strength of the commander-tier monster hunters would be so terrifying. Were they really rank 6? The huge gap in rank seemed to have no effect on them. How did they do it? In the battle in the air, the king-tier monster hunters fought side by side with Long Haochen and the others for the first time. The feeling was even more obvious. Almost every one of them had a piece of legendary-grade equipment. When they launched the battle, their attacks were tyrannical, and their coordination was tacit. It could be said to be perfect. In the entire process of the aerial battle, there were actually 4 monster hunters that perished in the hands of the commander-tier Monster Hunt 64. Half of them were killed. In addition to the star demon that was assassinated by Kai, the commander-tier Monster Hunt 64 played a greater role. Before the plan was carried out, Long Houchen and Tian Qing had already agreed that the two monster hunters, whoever killed the demons, would get to keep the corpse. There was no need to talk about the rewards, the merit token would record it automatically. When attacking, the two monster hunters also launched from two different directions. After this battle, Tian Qing was fully aware that Long Houchen and the others being able to kill the rank 8 Jacques leader was not a lucky thing. Just look, what did they do in the previous battle? Long Houchen rushed to the front, and the light elemental spirit attached to his back was able to display the saint's spiritual stove ability. It directly attracted the attention of the four monster hunters, and Long Houchen actually relied on his own strength to forcibly block the attacks of the four monster hunters, giving his companions enough space to attack. And his companions, what kind of people were they? The attack methods they used could be said to be unheard of. Some used a shield as a mountain-splitting axe, some used a big iron ball to smash people, and there was even a phoenix. The most ruthless one was the summoner. What did she summon? A heaven-defying demon dragon? It scared the demons half to death. How could they fight? The result was obvious. This was Long Houchen's terrifying four-headed mount did not appear on the battlefield. In the battle against the Jacques demons, when the 7th King Tier Monster Hunters saw the combat strength of the Commander Tier Monster Hunt 64, if it was said that they were shocked, then this time, they were already numb. Even if Heavenly Crystal was very clear that he shouldn't pry into other people's secrets, but this Commander Grey Demon Hunt squad that clearly only had the strength of the 6th step was able to erupt with an attack power not inferior to their King Grey Demon Hunt squads. He was really too curious. Before, he had never heard of such a powerful Commander Tier Monster Hunters. Moreover, looking at their Monster Hunter serial number, they should also have been promoted to the Commander tier not long ago. Although he could see that most of Long Houchen's companions only had strong explosive power, but this was still very frightening. In fact, it was not Tian Qing's fault. Who would have guessed that everyone in Long Houchen's team actually had a spiritual stove? The vast majority of people also had spiritual stoves after synthesis. This was also an important reason why the Commander Tier Monster Hunt 64 had such high explosive power. The two Demon Hunt squads quickly landed in the distance, at a place on the leeward side of a hill. It was unknown how the Heavenly Crystal was fiddled with, but a large boulder quietly moved to the side, revealing a dark cave entrance. Everyone quickly entered in a line, and the boulder closed, concealing all traces of them. This secret passage led straight to the regiment headquarters. When everyone returned to the regiment headquarters, everyone's face was brimming with excitement. One hit kill, other than the bear demons, this group of monster hunters were all killed, including a rank 8-star demon. This was a rare achievement. Just the rank 8-star demon itself was already one of the missions that Long Houchen and the others had accepted, and it was a mission with an extremely high reward. This was also the reason why Kai took the risk to kill it. Long Houchen, what about your companion? Is she all right? Tian Qing probed. Kai actually assassinated the star demon with one hit, and when she launched that attack, the sky actually changed accordingly. It was really shocking. Long Houchen shook his head and said, "She's fine, let's take a rest first." Lin Xin, who used the blue Fire Phoenix spiritual stove, and Sima Xian, who used the purple Godly Thunder spiritual stove, did not look good. It was obvious that they had suffered from the backlash of the spiritual stove, and they needed to rest. After saying that, he hurriedly returned to his room with his companions, not giving Tian Qing a chance to continue asking. Looking at the back view of Long Houchen leaving, Tian Qing sighed in his heart, and suppressed the curiosity in his heart. It was better not to ask too much. Kai was naturally sent to the Tower of Eternity by Long Houchen. At this time, although Long Houchen looked calm on the surface, he was burning with anxiety on the inside. He and Kai had always been together, and it could be said that no one understood Kai situation better than him. Under normal circumstances, Even if she activated the power of the spiritual stove of samsara, it was completely impossible for her to kill a rank 8 powerhouse, even if the rank 8 powerhouse was a pure magic attribute star demons. Long Houchen had clashed with the rank 8 demons more than once, and had a deep understanding of the power of a rank 8 powerhouse. Especially when Kai launched her attack, she could hide her aura so perfectly, and killed with one hit. Something must have happened. Therefore, after discovering that Kai-Er's state was not right, Long Houchen had to risk exposing the Tower of Eternity to send her over first. It was too dangerous for Kai-Er to continue to stay on the battlefield. During the course of the battle, Long Houchen also spared no effort and used the fastest speed to finish the battle and return here, in order to be able to check on Kai-Er's current physical condition in time. At this time, naturally, he could not wait to return to his room. The golden light shone, and the eternal melody was launched again. Long Houchen almost couldn't wait to teleport into the Tower of Eternity as soon as he returned to his room. Although they were now able to enter the second floor of the Tower of Eternity for training, they still had to enter from the first floor when they first entered the tower. Kai sat there quietly, and when Long Houchen saw her, his face immediately changed. Because he was shocked to find that he could no longer feel the existence of any life from Kai. She sat there like a statue. Kai Long Houchen exclaimed and quickly stepped forward. However, he was not a reckless person after all. He did not touch Kai-Er's body, but squatted carefully beside her and used his powerful spiritual power to feel Kai-Er's aura. At such a close distance, Long Houchen also held his breath and finally felt a trace of Kai-Er's spiritual power fluctuation. The anxiety in his eyes gradually turned into surprise. Kai-Er's aura was still there, but it had become very faint, and the spiritual power in her body seemed to be completely integrated with the surrounding environment, as if she had become a part of the Tower of Eternity at this time. There was no strong murderous intent, but after careful feeling, Long Houchen was surprised to find that Kai-Er gave him a feeling of being one with the world. Could it be that Kai-Er's God-favored physique was about to awaken? Long Houchen could not be sure, but he had already vaguely guessed that although Kai-Er's current situation could not be said to be good, it was not to the extent of a crisis. "You silly girl, still so impulsive." Long Houchen sighed softly, but the gaze he looked at Kai-Er was filled with love. He sat down not far away from her, his gaze was fixed on her body, and he carefully felt every change in her aura. Before Kai-Er woke up, he would not leave her side. Long Houchen's guess was right. Kai-Er was able to kill Xing Xian with one blow, naturally not by using her normal strength. According to the plan that Long Houchen and Tian Qing discussed, Tian Qing and the other King-tier monster hunters' assassins would first assassinate Star Demon. Their assassins were also rank 7 powerhouses, and a rank 7 assassin would have a certain chance of success against a rank 8 sorcerer. In the original plan, they did not have any extravagant hopes of killing Star Demon, and only hoped to heavily injure him. Tian Qing, who was not familiar with Kai-Er's strength, gave Kai-Er the task of assisting from the side to assassinate. However, Star Demon's sharp senses saved him the first time, and the rank 7 assassin's sneak attack was discovered in advance. Although he used all his strength to attack, he could only lightly injure Star Demon. However, without a doubt, the rank 7 assassin's attack also attracted the attention of almost all the monster hunter removers. At this moment, Kai-Er, who had used the invisibility necklace and her own rank 6 invisibility skill, floated in the air 100 meters above the ground, waiting for an opportunity. Kai-Er was very clear that if she wanted to get rid of this group of monster hunter removers in a short period of time, causing the leader Star Demon to lose his combat strength was crucial. Otherwise, with Star Demon's strength and the irresistible Great Prophecy spell, if she really went all out, it was very likely that the two monster hunters' teams would suffer casualties. Hence, at that moment, Kai-Er only had one thought in her mind, and that was to use all her strength to attack Star Demon. As for how far she could go, she did not think too much about it, because she knew that Long Houchen would definitely appear by her side in time and take her away. The absolute trust in Kai allowed her to have no worries, and the obsession in her heart caused her to enter a special state. The reincarnation saintess's comprehension was definitely not lower than the Son of Light's. An unprecedented state of being one with the universe appeared on Kai. At that moment Kai only had her target in her eyes and heart, as if there was no other existence in the world other than her and the Star Demon. Absolute focus, absolute restraint, as her essence, breath, and spirit were raised to the extreme, Kai also concealed her existence perfectly. Just like what Long Houchen had felt previously, at that moment she was a cloud in the sky, a gust of wind. Even a rank 8 Star Demon would not be able to sense her existence at that moment. The reincarnation sword and the reincarnation spiritual stove were activated in such a situation. An unprecedented sense of stillness first appeared in Kai-er's heart. At that moment, she only felt that her 6 senses were completely shut off, and there was only the instinct of being one with the universe. She did not even know how she had launched that attack. Chapter 137. After completing that attack, Kai-er's 6 senses had completely disappeared. She was still immersed in the state of being one with heaven and man, and was sent to the Tower of Eternity by Long Houchen. The disappearance of the 6 senses this time was not due to the backlash of the spiritual stove of samsara. After the fusion of the 3 spiritual stoves, Kai-er could already use the spiritual stove of samsara once without suffering any backlash. After using it, she only needed to rest for a period of time, and the next time she could use it again without suffering any backlash. Of course, if she wanted to bring out the stronger power of the spiritual stove of samsara and launch the sword of samsara more times, she would still have to suffer the backlash. Kai-er sat there for 3 days and 3 nights. With the change in her own aura, Long Houchen was relieved. He knew that Kai-er should have entered a state of enlightenment. The other members of the 2 Monster Hunters teams had been staying in the headquarters to rest quietly, while the city of Grand Jacques was in a state of chaos. The sudden appearance of the King Tier No. 17 Monster Hunters and the General Tier Monster Hunt 64, and the successful killing of a group of Demon Hunter removers, caused a great shock among the demons. The demons were not fools. They had been searching for such a long time, but they were still attacked by the Monster Hunters. What did this mean? It meant that the Temple League Monster Hunters were lurking nearby. A huge second carpet search was launched in Grand Jacques, and 6 groups of Demon Hunter removers were gathered in the city. The only survivor of the Star Group, the Bear Demons, roared all day long. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, they must find the 2 Monster Hunters. The Jacques race was fully mobilized, and the entire Jacques province suffered because of this. The situation outside was so tense that the news that could be passed into the headquarters had become less and less. However, Tianqing was not in a hurry. The Temple League invested a lot in the headquarters. The entire headquarters was tens of meters deep, and there was a special shielding array. Even if a peak 9th stage powerhouse stood above the headquarters and used his mental power to search, it would be impossible to find their existence. As for digging 3 feet into the ground, could they really dig it all up? The Monster Hunters had never lacked patience. With the harvest of annihilating a group of Demon Hunter removers, it was normal for them to meditate here for a few months. This was not the first time he had encountered such a situation. Grand Jacques City. Pa stood in the room arranged for him by a Jacques demon with a cold face, quietly looking out of the window. Behind him, 9 powerful demons stood quietly. Yu Yi was among the 9 demons, but Leng Xiao was nowhere to be seen. Although he was the son of a demon god emperor, Abao didn't have too many privileges in the Demon Hunter Extermination Division. The division he commanded was just an ordinary dragon extermination division. Apart from himself, who was at the 8th stage, Yu Yi was only at the 6th stage, and the other members were only at the 7th stage. The battle in the illusory paradise was a great humiliation in Poe's heart. He swore that if he didn't kill the human who had humiliated him, he wouldn't marry Yu Yi. Therefore, he became a demon hunter under the identity of the demon's crown prince. He led his team to look for traces of Long Houchen and his companions. Bao was completely sure that Long Houchen was a demon hunter. Moreover, he was the leader of a team of monster hunters. As long as he was a member of the monster hunters, he would definitely come to the demons. Therefore, he had been waiting for an opportunity and news. Just a few days ago, the sneak attack in Grand Jacques City caught his attention. When he heard about the performance of the golden figure on the battlefield, he knew that the golden figure was most likely Long Houchen. That was why he brought his team here and stayed for 10 days. Although Bao did not have many privileges on the surface, who did not know his identity as the Prince of Demons. Moreover, even if they were all at the 8th stage, could the strength of the other demon hunters compare to him? Therefore, when he came here, the situation in the entire Grand Jacques City was completely under his control. The second carpet search had ended, but there was still no result. The 2 teams of monster hunters seemed to have evaporated from the face of the earth. Brother Bao, the search is over. Those demon hunters should have left. I think we should not waste any more time here. Yu Yi walked behind Bao and said softly. Bao shook his head and said with a cold face, "No, I am sure that they must still be in Grand Jacques City, but I don't know where they are hiding. I have asked about the situation that day in detail several times." The bear demon's distress signal was sent in a timely manner. It took less than a quarter of an hour for the 2 teams of demon hunters nearby to arrive. Moreover, they looked down from the sky during the process. If those demon hunters had escaped, they would have found some traces. However, the demon hunter disappeared instead of running away. According to our intelligence, there is likely to be a headquarters of the Temple League Monster Hunters in Grand Jacques City, and they are hiding there. They are waiting for us to relax our vigilance and escape, or continue to attack our race. Is it a competition of patience? I have never been short of patience. I have laid an inescapable net. I don't believe that he can escape from me this time. I will kill him with my own hands and give you his heart as a proposal gift. Just as humans would collect the magic crystals of demons, demons also liked to collect the hearts of human powerhouses as trophies. For them, the human heart that was nourished by the spiritual aperture was an excellent tonic. Bao did not notice that when he said this, Yu Ye's eyes flashed with a hint of disgust. It was just that she hid it very well. She did not continue to persuade him. Yu Yi knew very well that once Bao had decided on something, even the demon emperor would find it difficult to change his mind. Among the younger generation of demons, Bao was undoubtedly the best. As the heir of the demon emperor, he was different from the other heaven-defying demon dragons. His strength was achieved through his own efforts, little by little. When he was just born, he was no different from a human baby. This was the process that the heir of the demon emperor had to go through. All the descendants with the blood of the demon emperor had to go through this process. Only in this way could they soar after breaking through to the 9th rank and become the supreme demons of a generation. However, his own excellence and identity as the heir of the demon emperor also gave Bao a weakness that others did not think was a weakness, and that was conceit. To put it nicely, it was absolute confidence. However, Yu Yi did not like this about him. In her heart, although Bao was very good to her, he would never think from the perspective of others. Even when she put forward her opinions, Bao rarely listened. Yu Yi had to admit that Bao's choice was right because she knew very well who had come here. Wasn't the place where the Yu Yi Chamber of Commerce broke off contact with Long Houchen near Jacques Province? That was why she was even more anxious. However, she could not persuade Bao, and she did not know where Long Houchen was, nor could she inform him. When Bao made this decision just now, Yu Yi also made a decision in her heart at the same time. At the most critical moment, she could only use herself as a bargaining chip to help them escape. After all, her life was in the hands of that girl. Originally, Yu Yi had already accepted her fate. Who would dare to violate the marriage between the Demon Emperor and the Moon Demon? She did not dare, she really did not dare. She could not even muster up the will to resist. However, the wedding that was about to be held was postponed indefinitely because of him. When Abao told her this news with guilt, Yu Yi was surprised to find that her heart was actually full of joy. This also gave her more reason to help Long Haochen. As long as he did not die, perhaps she really did not need to marry Abao. When she became old and her beauty faded, he should not be interested in her anymore. Regimental Headquarters. Haochen, good news. The demons have gradually withdrawn from the city, and now there is only one group left in the city. They live in the Jacques Demon Palace. How about it? Let's try again? Tianqing's eyes flashed as he said. Long Haochen thought for a moment and said, could it be a trap? Although this time the demons searched for another 15 days, but after finding nothing, they left so quickly. I think it is a bit abnormal. Tianqing nodded slightly, secretly admiring Long Haochen in his heart. Although he looked young, his character was very calm. The situation you said is not impossible. However, we are engaged in a mission of licking blood on the edge of a knife. There is danger at any time. But danger is also accompanied by opportunity. We have stayed here for too long. If we start again, regardless of success or failure, we must leave here. Therefore, now there are two options. One is to directly leave, and the other is to attack the group of demon hunters in the city and then leave. The search outside is relaxed, and our people will bring more and more information. How about this, we wait a few days according to the information, and then make a final decision? Long Haochen gladly agreed. Good, we will do as Big Brother Tianqing says. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed, and there was a constant flow of information from outside. All signs indicated that the demon hunters had indeed left. However, the demons had sent a group of 1,000 demon cavalrymen to assist the Jacques demons in guarding the Jacques province. However, this also seemed to further prove that there weren't many demon hunter removers left behind. Long Haochen, we can't wait any longer. We just received news that the last group of demon hunters has already left the city, and it seems that they are also leaving. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Long Haochen was still somewhat hesitant. Big Brother Tianqing, our harvest this time is actually very good. Why don't we leave first to be safe? If we move to another place, we can still ambush the demon hunters. He didn't know why, but there was always a sense of crisis in his subconscious, as if there was a pair of invisible eyes always staring at them. Tianqing frowned, obviously somewhat dissatisfied with Long Haochen, and said in a deep voice, How about this, Long Haochen? I won't force you. This time, our team will be the main attack. You will be responsible for providing support. If we really fall into the trap of the demons, you will immediately escape. Just run away immediately and don't care about us. As he said this, Tianqing's tone clearly became tough. Although his team had received a great favor from Long Haochen, as king-class monster hunters, they always had a strong sense of autonomy. Tianqing was the absolute core of the team, and he was also very confident in his own judgment. Kindness didn't mean subservience, not to mention that they were a higher-ranked king-grade demon hunt squad. Everyone in Heavenly Azure's group was holding back their energy, wanting to prove their strength with their best performance in this second mission. Having said this much, Long Haochen naturally couldn't say anything more, and could only nod in agreement with Tianqing's plan. The next step was to quickly formulate a plan. Long Haochen would defend one of the routes, and Tianqing would be the main attack, while his team would act as backup. After all, the enemy didn't know that there were 2 monster hunters here. One in the open and one in the dark would greatly increase the safety of the 2 teams. Regarding this point, Tianqing carefully thought about it and didn't have any dissatisfaction. In any case, his team would be the main attack, and in the end, some of the profits would be given to Long Houchen's team. As long as the operation was successful, his companion's confidence would be restored. While the two of them were discussing, news came from outside that the group of monster hunters was heading towards the city gate, and was about to leave the city. Tianqing made a prompt decision, and in a deep voice said, "Let's go, we'll go out through the secret passage, and directly intercept them outside the city. Attacking from outside the city is more advantageous than inside. At least we don't need to worry about the Jacques demon's reaction." Long Houchen nodded. "Brother Tianqing, you must be careful. If the situation is not right, we will cover the rear, and you can quickly retreat. We have a way to escape." "Okay." Tianqing noncommittally agreed, and turned around to call his companions. In fact, in his heart, he didn't care about Long Houchen's words. As a king-class monster hunters, letting the general-class monster hunters cover the rear? That would be too shameful. What's more, he didn't think that there was any problem with his plan. A group of 13 people quietly came out from the secret passage, with the king-class number 17 monster hunters in the front, and the general-class monster hunt 64 in the back, all of them in full military attire. Kai quietly followed beside Long Houchen. If someone who was familiar with her carefully observed her, they would find that the current Kai had changed a bit compared to before. The coldness in her body was restrained, and was no longer as obvious as before. Even the space between her eyebrows seemed to have softened a lot, but if one looked closely, they would find that Kai-Er's restrained aura was even more frightening, like a bottomless abyss, quiet and deep. After 3 days of meditation, Kai-Er's 6 senses had automatically recovered, but she still couldn't awaken the God-favored physique. However, this was the first time that she had completely fused her own abilities together, and the help it gave her could be imagined. After returning to the group headquarters, Kai had been in a state of retreat for the past few days. She had a strong feeling that her God-favored physique could be awakened at any time, but now she was missing the last opportunity. As for when this opportunity would appear, she didn't know. Kai was very clear that even if there was only a thin line, it was very likely to be very close. The God-favored physique could not be broken through by hard work. It needed an instantaneous burst of understanding. Everyone was a powerhouse of the 6th rank or above. Even if they were moving forward in the underground secret passage, their speed was still extremely fast. Under the leadership of Sky Crystal, when they saw the light of day again, they had already appeared outside Great Jacques City. Without needing Sky Crystal's guidance, the magician and priest in their group had all acted. Eagle Eye and Eye of Truth were launched at the same time, investigating the situation near and far. The magician whispered, "I found it, a group of 10 people just came out of the city. The leader is a demons that look like a young man in black. I can't tell what race he is. However, his aura is very strong, and it may be the existence of the heaven-defying demon dragon clan. If this is the case, we have encountered the dragon group of demon hunters." The priest immediately reported, "There are no invisible soldiers ambushing within a kilometer, everything is normal." Sky Crystal asked the magician, "Did you find any signs of an ambush? You need to investigate more carefully." The magician nodded, increased the output of his spiritual power, and fully launched the Eagle Eye. This was the magician's most powerful detection skill. It could even see the invisible soldiers of the demons. When used by a 7th-rank magician, it could detect at least a range of 20 miles. When the magician concentrated his spiritual power on a closer distance, the detection could be more detailed. After a moment, the magician said, "Everything is normal. Those demons have already left the city, and they have no intention of flying. Instead, they are walking towards the direction of the central province. In addition to the young man in black, there is also a woman in a white cloak behind him. She is also in human form, but I can't see her real cultivation and race. Behind them, there are also 4 strong demons in human form. 2 demons, 1 Jacques demon and 1 bear demon. I can confirm that in addition to the young man in black, there are at least 2 other demons with pure magic ability. They are leaving quickly, and it is too late for us to ambush them. I suggest a direct confrontation. I have a 70% chance of killing them. Sky Crystal nodded and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." As he spoke, he suddenly pulled out his heavy sword, and raised the dark golden shield in his left hand. A dazzling dark golden light spread in front of him, and with a low roar, a huge earth dragon suddenly appeared in front of him. This was the 8th level Vajra dragon, the most powerful of the earth dragons, comparable to a 7th rank human powerhouse. Most importantly, its defense was extremely strong, and together with it, the knight would have a super strong meat shield. Even an 8th rank powerhouse would not be able to kill the Vajra dragon in a short time. Sky Crystal leaped up, and directly climbed onto the back of the Vajra dragon. The warrior and the assassin jumped onto the dragon's back as well. Meanwhile, the level 7 summoner held up a bright silver crystal ball. After chanting a few incantations, 3 rays of white light flashed, and 3 level 6 lightning leopards appeared in front of everyone. The summoner, the magician, and the priest each got on one. At this time, the combat qualities of king-tier monster hunters were fully displayed. Of course, they could use their spiritual wings to fly over and snipe the enemy, but monster hunter hunters were not weak, especially the dragon monster hunters, who were the most difficult existences to deal with below the Demon King level. Therefore, they had to conserve their spiritual power. Moreover, it was easier to be discovered by the enemy if they went over the ground. The lightning leopard's attack and defense were very average, but as a wind-type magical beast, it had the speed of lightning, and was undoubtedly the best mount for magic professions. As soon as they got on the back of the magical beast, the magician took out his staff and started chanting in a low voice. He allowed the lightning leopard to run, but it was as if he was glued to the back of the lightning leopard, and his chanting was not chaotic or hurried. The group of 6 moved quickly, and under the guidance of the magician's eagle eye spell, they stabbed diagonally into the path that the enemy had to take. The eyes of the general class Monster Hunt 64 naturally fell on Long Houchen. Long Houchen's eyes rippled with purple light, and Haoyue's huge figure appeared in front of everyone in the next moment. Haoyue's body was already more than 11 meters long, and its hill-like body could definitely be described as huge. The 2 huge protrusions on its back were even more obvious, and its 4 heads were raised proudly. One could clearly see that the shrunken protrusion on the other side, after close to a year of seclusion, had now protruded again, and it was almost the length of the other heads, and could evolve again at any time. In particular, Haoyue had eaten quite a number of magical crystals recently, and the faintly discernible terrifying aura on its body sometimes shocked even Long Houchen. All 7 of them got on Haoyue's back, and Long Houchen stood on one of Baldy's heads. Haoyue's thick and strong limbs spread out, and he took big strides in the direction of the King-class number 17 monster hunters. However, under Long Houchen's instructions, they could fall behind by about a kilometer, and they had to try their best to find cover in the process of moving forward. Long Houchen actually hoped that his worries were groundless. After the previous attack, they had already completed more than 10 out of the 16 killing missions, especially the killing of the Star Demon, which allowed them to complete a difficult mission that was second only to the attacking the Demon God. The attacking the Demon God that they had accepted was the 72nd ranked Demon God. It was in a remote province, and they only had to go all out to deal with the Demon God. However, the Star Demons were different. Most of the Star Demons lived in the Demon's Heart City, not to mention the Class 8 Star Demons. Once they made a move in the Heart City, it would be too difficult to not be discovered. Due to the Demon Emperor's terrifying mental strength, the Temple League was unable to set up their headquarters in the Heart City. Moreover, there were many strong demons there. They never thought that the extremely difficult mission, which was regarded as equivalent to killing the demon god, would actually be completed here. Therefore, everyone was much more relaxed. They had only been out for 2 months, and they had already completed most of the killing missions. Naturally, they could slow down their pace. Hopefully, the second attack would also be successful. The 2 teams of monster hunters continued to advance at a rapid speed. Heavenly Crystal was still taking care of Long Houchen's side. From time to time, he would change his position, and at the same time, he would wave the heavy sword in his hand, informing Long Houchen of the situation on their side. The most important thing was to indicate how far they were from the enemy. Long Houchen's heartbeat suddenly sped up, as if there was an invisible force pressing on it. Heavenly Crystal had just sent a message that they were already within 3 kilometers of the enemy. In about 2 minutes they would directly launch an attack. Long Houchen suddenly turned his head and shouted at Lin Xian. Lin Xian, Eagle Eye Technique. Quick! Check if there is anything different about the demon hunters. Lin Xian replied. He also felt that Long Houchen's mood was not right. He did not dare to be negligent. He quickly raised the fire crystal staff in his hand and quickly released an eagle eye technique. During this process, the 2 teams of monster hunters continued to advance, and were still rapidly approaching the enemy. Long Houchen somewhat eagerly asked, "How is it?" Lin Xian's brows slightly wrinkled. "I saw the other side. It is very strange. I feel that the black-clothed youth is a bit strange. He is wearing a hat on his head, covering his face. But I always feel that he is very familiar. Also, the cloaked woman behind him also gives me a familiar feeling. Wait, it's her." Lin Xian's sudden exclamation surprised everyone in the team. Long Houchen urgently asked, "Who is it?" Lin Xian said, "It's Yu Yi. The woman in their team is Yu Yi." Not good. Could it be that the leader is the one from last time? Yes, when Lin Xian used the eagle eye technique to investigate, the woman in second place in the demon hunters team took off her cloak and revealed her face. Although it was only for a moment, Lin Xian clearly saw her purple hair and beautiful face. Wasn't it Yu Yi? Long Houchen's heart instantly sank. We have been tricked. There must be an ambush. As he thought of this, he hurriedly looked at Fang Tianqing and the others. At this time, Fang Tianqing and the others had just rushed down a slope and disappeared from Long Houchen's sight. At this moment, a strong magical fluctuation bloomed. Even though they were far away, they could clearly feel the temperature in the air plummet, and the terrifying energy fluctuations increased. It was obvious that the 17th King-class monster hunters had already begun their attack. Long Houchen and the others had discovered it a little too late. That's right, the group that had leisurely walked out of the city of Grand Jacques was a Bao and his dragon group, monster hunters. After making an accurate judgment, a Bao gradually laid out an inescapable net for Long Houchen and the others. His method was very simple. First, he blocked the monster hunters' investigation within the city, and then he withdrew the demon hunters' team one by one, gradually numbing Long Houchen and the others. This time, their purpose of leaving the city was naturally to lure the snake out of its hole. If they didn't give Long Houchen and the others a chance to attack, how could they catch the big fish? A Bao's strategy couldn't be said to be very clever, but it was absolutely simple and effective. Long Houchen and Tianqing were both smart people, but it was very obvious that it was not easy to detect. Abao had absolute confidence in himself. Therefore, the people he had set up in ambush were all far away. When Yu Yi took off her cloak, Abao turned his head and looked at her with dissatisfaction. Just as he was about to reprimand her, suddenly, a strong magical fluctuation appeared, and a team of 6 monster hunters came straight in their direction. It's not that person, that was Abao's first judgment. But no matter what, this was still a team of monster hunters. Moreover, they dared to attack him with the strength of a team of monster hunters, which meant that they were at least king-class monster hunters. Killing them would also be a great achievement. A sneer appeared at the corner of Abao's mouth, and he coldly shouted, "Set up a defensive formation." As he said this, he raised his right hand, and a purplish-black ball of light rose into the air, bursting with a strong halo. This was the signal to start the ambush. The huge bear demons had already taken large strides to the forefront, and at this time, a powerful magic had also descended. Blizzard, Ice-type Tier 7 AoE spell. There were only 3 legendary equipment in the King class No. 17 Monster Hunters, Tianqing's Shield, the Summoner's Silver Crystal Ball, and the Magician's Staff. This was also the configuration that most monster hunters would choose, as it could greatly increase the survivability and attack power of the monster hunters. Without a doubt, the Magician was their strongest attack output. Blizzard was a large-scale magic. Even a rank 7 magician would need more than a minute to chant, but because of this magic was also the most powerful of all the rank 7 water magic. The magician of the King class number 17 monster hunters used a slow chant to delay the casting time of the magic, so that the magic elements gathered by the magic became more powerful. Snowflakes the size of a palm fell from the sky, cold and gloomy. With an incomparably sharp whistling sound, every snowflake was like a sharp blade tearing through the air, cutting through the air, and cutting through everything. Amidst the terrifying howls, the snowflakes sped up and swept towards the dragon group Demon Hunter Exterminator. The ice storm wasn't just a simple water element magic, but it also had the wind element. The legendary magic staff in the hands of the magician of the 17th Demon Hunt Squad was a rare dual-element ice and wind element magic, and the casting of this magic had an even greater effect. Therefore, when this magic was cast, it clearly had the power of a rank 8 magic. It could be clearly seen that in the process of casting the magic, the magician's face gradually turned pale. One could imagine how much burden he was under at this time. This was a magic that could not be dodged at all, covering at least a few thousand square meters. Abao and his bear demons quickly gathered together. The bear demons held their heads in their hands, but stood upright. It could be clearly seen that all the thick hair on their bodies were standing up, and there was a faint layer of dark purple rippling on their body, like a barrier to resist the most powerful attack in front of them. 2 black-clothed youths slowly floated up from the back, and dense dark purple light expanded from their hands. What was surprising was that they each had a staff in their hands, and the magical waves they emitted were very intense. Although they were not legendary, they were existences at the pinnacle of the Radiance rank. It must be known that very few magic casters of the demon race could use magic staff. Only demons could make dark magic staffs, and the Temple League would not make such magic staff. Now that there were 2 of them, one could imagine the configuration of the Dragon Group monster hunters. It could be said that even without the existence of Abao, the strength of this monster hunters team was far stronger than the team that Long Houchen and the others faced last time. Abao's body slowly floated up, and he floated to the center of the team. Facing the overwhelming snowstorm, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he pulled off the hat on his head and blasted out a punch in the void. When his fist struck the air, it immediately produced a terrifying feeling as if space was collapsing. The snowflakes falling from the sky suddenly shattered in this collapsed space, unable to fall on them at all. Terrifying magic and tyrannical defense had completely collided at this moment. The most distinct sound on the battlefield was the ear-piercing sound of slicing. After the snowstorm covered an area of thousands of square meters, it quickly gathered toward the center, gradually forming a huge snowstorm tornado that strangled all 10 demon powerhouses. This magic was the trump card of the 17th King class monster hunters, and it was also the strongest attack that this magician could cast. Just like Lin Xion's Blue Flame Phoenix, after this attack, he would lose most of his combat power. At the same time that the snowstorm bloomed, the 17th King class monster hunters naturally did not stay idle. They rushed down at an amazing speed, and the priest had already begun to cast skills to help the magician recover his magic power. The summoner also began to quickly chant, and level 6 magical beasts quickly appeared on the battlefield, as the vanguard of the monster hunters. Tianqing raised the big sword in his hand and boldly rushed toward the bear demons in front of him. The assassin disappeared into the air, and the warrior took out a pair of huge battle axes and followed beside him. The fundamental reason why Tianqing was so confident in ambushing the monster hunters was because of the powerful snowstorm magic. He had strong confidence in his own magician. In his judgment, if this magic were to be cast, at least 1/3 of the enemy would be reduced, and the others would also be greatly affected. Not only would they be injured, but they would also be slowed down by the low temperature of the snowstorm. After that, the battle naturally fell into their rhythm. Tianqing was confident that he could end the battle in a very short time, and then escape in an instant, sneaking back to the regiment to rest like last time. As long as this mission was completed, even if they had to hide for another 3 months, it would not be a problem. Then, they would leave here to continue other missions. The moment the snowstorm enveloped all the enemies, Tianqing seemed to have felt that his mission was about to be completed. However, when he was still 100 meters away from the enemy, his face had already changed a little. He expected that the bear demons would resist. After all, the bear demons' defense was well known, and he did not think that this area of effect magic would be able to kill the demons, the race with the strongest defense. However, what surprised him was the defense in the middle and back. The snowstorm attacked from all directions, and the defense on one side was useless. However, at this time, the enemy had completed a comprehensive defense. The 2 demons in the back supported a huge light shield, constantly withstanding the attacks of the snowstorm. Although they were struggling to hold on, and kept releasing magic after magic, they still managed to hold on. The most important thing was the black-clothed young man floating in the air. His punches in the air had dissolved too much of the power of the snowstorm, so the power of the entire magic had been reduced by at least half. Although they were also affected by the cold air, at least so far, none of them had been really hurt. One had to know that the magician of the King Tier No. 17 Monster Hunters could not maintain this magic for too long. After all, his magic power was still limited. Chapter 138. It seemed that this demon hunter-exterminator team was not easy to deal with. Even so, Sky Qing did not have the slightest intention of retreating. Long Haochen and the others had support from behind. What's more, the enemy was weakened by the snowstorm. The King Kong dragon launched a charge. It lowered its huge head and went straight to the bear demons in front of it. At this time, the demonic bear was still using its hands to protect its head. It was simply unable to block the Vajra dragon's charge. The snowstorm in the air seemed to have grown eyes, as no snowflakes fell on the sky crystal. The terrifying battle began at this moment, and Sky Qing's strength was fully unleashed. The King Kong dragon's head was about to hit the bear demons. In a sense, the King Kong dragon and the bear demons were the same kind of existence. They had strong defense, weak attack and speed, and could not fly. Boom! The King Kong dragon's head, which was the hardest part of its body, hit the bear demon's arms. Although the bear demons' bodies were huge, there was still a gap compared to the King Kong dragon. Not to mention, the King Kong dragon was still charging forward. Under normal circumstances, if the King Kong dragon hit the bear demons in this situation, it would not be able to seriously injure them, but at least it would be able to knock the bear demons away. According to Sky Qing's calculations, the next step would be for him and his companions to charge into the enemy group, and with the last power of the snowstorm, they would be able to greatly reduce the enemy's combat effectiveness. However, he had miscalculated once again. Amidst the deafening rumbles, the demonic bear's feet plowed 2 deep ravines on the ground, but he was not sent flying. This was because a black figure appeared accurately behind the bear demons at that moment, and both palms pressed against their bodies. At this time, the bear demons were like a huge shield. Even with his tyrannical defense, he could not help but groan in this situation, and blood oozed out of his mouth and nose. However, the injury of the bear demons undoubtedly brought great benefit. Sky Crystal, who had miscalculated, suddenly felt like vomiting blood. The powerful skills that he had been waiting for naturally had to change their target. The heavy sword in his hand fiercely slashed at the bear demons instead of the weak enemies behind them. The one who blocked the bear demon's body was naturally a bow. While blocking the attack, he did not forget to throw a punch into the sky to shatter the attack of the snowstorm. However, in this way, he still couldn't take care of everything, and there were still quite a few snowflakes sweeping in. However, the other demons weren't newbies. They were all 7th grade powerhouses, so it wouldn't be a problem for them to deal with the snowstorm. Bang! The bear demons' bodies shone with golden light. They grunted again, but still didn't retreat. With their tyrannical bodies, they forcibly blocked A Bao's attack. At the same time, they did not forget to heavily stomp on the ground, bursting out a strong shock, so that the King Kong dragon couldn't launch a second attack in a row. At this time, Yu Yi shouted, and a circle of purple-black ripples spread from her body. An illusory figure suddenly appeared in the air, and its target was Yu Yi. A 7th grade demon spread the wings behind his back, and in an instant, the blood-red heavy sword clashed with the king-class assassin, forcing the assassin to retreat. At this time, Sky Crystal and his king-class monster hunter's offense had turned from active to passive. Sky Crystal never thought that the enemy would be so difficult to deal with. The snowstorm had weakened. Although a large number of magical beasts summoned by the summoners had also joined the battle, those magical beasts could only delay the enemy's attack. They were far from killing the enemy. What should I do? This was the moment Sky Crystal faced. Wearing the Mithril Foundation battle armor, he made a prompt decision and let out a long roar. This was his signal to Long Houchen. At this time, he didn't care about his face. He had discussed with Long Houchen that if the enemy was difficult to deal with, he would ask Long Houchen and the others to come and help. They would deal with the enemy as quickly as possible and then escape. At present, with the strength of the monster hunters, it was impossible to annihilate the demon killer in front of them. Therefore, they could only ask for help from Long Houchen and the others. However, for the third time, something unexpected happened. Long Houchen and the others didn't rush over. Instead, they heard a long roar from behind them. It was from Long Houchen. At this moment, Sky Crystal's heart finally fell to the bottom. Long Houchen's roar meant that they had fallen into an ambush. The enemy really had a premeditated plan. Retreat! Sky Crystal shouted without hesitation. The heavy shield in his hand was placed in front of him. With a shield block, he fiercely hit the bear demons. This time, he used all his strength. Coupled with the power of the legendary shield, the bear demons were knocked back 3 steps. Want to leave? It's too late. A Bao's cold voice echoed in the air. His black figure appeared in front of Sky Crystal in the next moment. Ever since his failure in the illusory paradise, A Bao had bitterly hated these demon hunt squads. His heart was even more stifled. As the demon race's crown prince, his status was so lofty, but he was still defeated by Long Houchen. This anger was something that couldn't be washed away by time. With great difficulty, he encountered a human demon hunt squad, so how could he let Tian Qing and the others go? A Bao's attack was always so simple and effective. Boom! Even with the legendary shield and divine block for defense, this punch still made Sky Crystal suffer a big loss. His golden body that was releasing the body of brilliant light was blasted 10 meters away by this punch. His left arm was already sore and numb. Peak of rank 8. A Bao's face changed. One had to know that his inner energy was now over 20,000, and with the help of the divine block, their Mithril Foundation battle armor, and the legendary shield, only a pinnacle level 8 powerhouse could force him back. A Bao's entire body was like a whirlwind as he rushed towards the heavenly crystal. His fists became heavier and heavier as he launched a powerful attack. Sky Crystal was not so easy to deal with. After determining the enemy's strength, he fought and retreated, constantly using various skills to weaken Abao's strength. However, he was secretly complaining. Abao's speed was faster than him. It was completely impossible for him to retreat. At this time, he also felt many powerful auras approaching from all directions. I was wrong. I really regret not listening to Houchen's advice. However, Sky Crystal, after all, had been among the demons for many years. Although his heart was in pain at this time, his spirit was extremely focused, and he made the most correct judgment in the first moment. You guys retreat, I'll cover you. Don't worry about me. Meet up with Houchen and break through. Quickly go. As he said that, Sky Crystal looked up to the sky and roared. A strong golden flame instantly rose, and the situation suddenly reversed. He directly gave up the heavy sword in his hand, and with both hands holding the shield, he fiercely knocked back Abao who was attacking. Abao's attack was really too powerful. His seemingly simple and direct attack actually had the tyrannical power of heaven and earth. Every punch was thrown at the moment when Sky Crystal's old power had just dissipated, and he had not yet recovered. However, Sky Crystal was, after all, a Mithril Foundation Knight. He also had his own strong points. Many years of training as a demon hunter had given him formidable strength and combat experience. At this moment, he directly used all of his strength. What was burning was not only the flame of light, but also his own flame of life. He was already risking his life. His goal was very simple. At the cost of sacrificing himself, he would give his companions an opportunity to retreat. On the battlefield of the demons, the demon hunters did not know how many times they had made such a choice. As a guardian knight, when he was appointed as the leader, he already knew that this would happen one day. Therefore, he did not hesitate even for a moment. This sudden attack was his choice, so he naturally had to bear all the consequences. No, leader, I won't leave. The king-class warrior roared, and his pair of battle axes burst out with full force. Whirlwind slash. The powerful attack instantly knocked back two strong demons, and crazily rushed towards Abao. Leader, the team cannot do without you. Hurry up and leave. The heavy axes were already shining with a bloody light. It was berserk. However, a warrior was still a warrior, and he did not have a single piece of legendary equipment. Facing his attack, Abao suddenly took a step back like a ghost. His body was spinning rapidly in the air. Amidst the sonorous roar of a dragon, along with the explosion of the air collapsing and tearing, Abao kicked the spinning warrior. Bang! As he spat out a mouthful of blood, even though he was a berserk king, he was still sent flying by Abao's kick. The blood he spat out left a trail of blood in the air, and his two battle axes flew out of his hands at the same time. Failure is the mother of success. This saying was not only useful for humans but also for demons. After the battle with Long Houchen, Abao reflected on his painful experience and went into seclusion to train. His strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Not only had his cultivation reached the peak of the 8th stage, but his overall combat strength and comprehension in actual combat were also completely different from before. At this moment, one could clearly see that his whole body was covered with a layer of black scales, and his blood-red eyes were full of bloodlust. Tianqing gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. He raised his shield again and once again charged towards Abao. He only had one thought in his mind now, and that was to protect as many of his companions as possible. However, no matter which monster hunter it was, after fighting together for so long, how could they easily abandon their companions? Tianqing was like this, and so were his companions. Clusters of different colored flames simultaneously ignited on the battlefield, belonging to all the members of the king-class monster hunters. They all ignited their own flame of life at the same time. They all had the same thought: they would rather die here than abandon their companions and leave alone. Boom, boom, boom. Tianqing's body would tremble with every violent collision, but he relied on his own strength to forcibly block Abao. Not only that, but he also took care of the other demons. The snowstorm was not completely useless. No matter how strong a Bao was, it was impossible for him to take care of every member of his team. Although the snowstorm had stopped at this time, almost everyone in his team except him was affected by the snowstorm's slowing effect. 3 of them even suffered varying degrees of injuries. Therefore, although a Bao had instantly turned his disadvantage into an advantage, the demon hunters were unable to launch a counterattack at the first moment. At this moment, a golden light suddenly appeared on the battlefield, and a noble aura of light descended from the sky. Clang! In the ear-piercing sound of an explosion, a Bao's figure suddenly stopped for a moment, and then his blood-red eyes exploded with intense sparks. It's him! With 4 wings spread, Long Houchen retreated after one attack. Yiting's slender figure appeared behind him, and a white light accurately hit a Bao's body. Long Houchen flapped his 4 wings and appeared behind the demons like lightning. With a burst of demon destruction flash, several strong demons who were rushing over were all enveloped in it, blocking their attack. At the same time, the Commander-class Monster Hunt 64 had arrived, and together with the King-class Monster Hunters, they launched a counterattack. Houchen! Tianqing shouted. Long Houchen shouted in a deep voice, "There are enemies around us. You guys quickly break out of the encirclement, and we will cover you. I have a way to leave the battlefield, hurry up and go." The sudden addition of Long Houchen and the others immediately changed the situation of the battle. For Haoyue took big strides and rushed towards them. The Commander-class Monster Hunt 64 had long been ready. With the addition of this new force, if they only faced a Bao's team of demon hunters, no matter how strong a Bao was, it would be difficult for him to win. However, as Long Houchen and the others appeared on the battlefield, a large number of light spots were rushing towards them from all directions in the sky. At a glance, there were a total of 50 light spots. Seeing Long Houchen again, a Bao felt that the blood in his body was completely boiling. With a loud roar, a pair of purple-black dragon wings broke out from his back, and he directly gave up on Tianqing and chased after Long Houchen. Long Houchen did not want to entangle with him. His figure flashed, and with a flap of his 4 wings, he once again dodged. "Brother Tianqing, hurry up and leave, or else it will be too late." Long Houchen anxiously shouted again. Tianqing smiled brightly. "Long Houchen, you guys leave. This battle is under my command, I am the commander. Listen to me, you guys quickly leave." Long Houchen angrily said, "Why are you still pestering me? I already said, we have the ability to leave the battlefield. Did you forget how I made Kai Air disappear? None of you can leave." A Bao suddenly stopped and did not chase after Long Houchen. He raised his right hand, and an orange halo suddenly bloomed, forming a soft orange light cover that enveloped everyone on the battlefield, including his demon hunters, as well as Long Houchen and Tianqing. Long Houchen only felt that the air around his body suddenly stagnated, and he suddenly stopped moving. Not only him, but Tianqing and even all the demons, including a Bao, were all frozen. It seemed that in this orange space, time has become still. A Bao's eyes revealed a cold light, his eyes staring at Long Houchen. "The shame you brought me, I will definitely take it back. Only with your blood can I wash away the filth and obsession in my heart. Today you must die." Long Houchen's heart completely sank at this time. He did not know what skill a Bao used, but it should not be a skill that belonged to him. But this was no longer important. This skill obviously did not distinguish between friend and foe, and could restrict everyone. Perhaps the restriction time would not be too long, but in the current situation, it was enough, because this short period of time was enough for the ambush of the demons to surround them. 5 demon hunters, that was a total of 5 demon hunters. Such a powerful force was not something they could deal with at the moment. Even if they wanted to escape, it would be very difficult. Long Houchen was not even sure that he could activate Eternal Melody to lead his companions away from the encirclement of so many demons. They were in a desperate situation, and now they had completely fallen into a desperate situation. Before coming to the battlefield, Long Houchen had a choice. At that time, he could lead his teammates to break out of the encirclement, or use Eternal Melody to teleport away. However, even if Tian Qing's judgment was wrong, how could he abandon his comrades on the battlefield? Therefore, he appeared here without any hesitation. If Tian Qing could listen to his opinion and immediately lead his companions to break out of the encirclement, perhaps Long Houchen and the others would have the opportunity to escape the battlefield. However, when Abao used the special skill that should have originated from the star demons, everything was too late. It was not only the 17th King tier monster hunters who were in a desperate situation, but also the General tier Monster Hunt 64. The orange light gradually disappeared, and the Saint's spiritual stove traction skill released by Yiting still remained on Abao's body, but no matter how you looked at it, it seemed to have an ironic meaning. The 5 demon hunters had already completed the encirclement, and a strong dark spiritual power filled the air. The powerful aura fluctuations caused the hearts of every demon hunter present to turn cold. The members of the 17th King tier monster hunters had temporarily stopped burning their life force, and their eyes were filled with determination. They could not leave. Since they could not leave, then they might as well stay. Killing one was enough, killing 2 was still worth it. From the first day they became demon hunters, they already had the awareness that they would fall to the demons. This day, it seemed, had really come. "All of you, stop!" Per abruptly shouted out. The dragon group demon hunters quickly retreated under his command, temporarily opening up the distance between them and the demon hunters. Long Houchen and Tian Qing, the 2 monster hunters, also took this opportunity to gather together, but the other 5 demon hunters' encirclement had also shrunk a lot. 6 demon hunters against 1 king tier and 1 general tier monster hunters. This battle was destined to be without suspense. No matter how good Long Houchen and Kair were, if they fought as a group, the final result would be them dying on the spot. Of course, with the Eternal Melody's teleportation, Long Houchen was confident that he could at least take away 1 or 2 people, but how could he abandon his other companions? Tian Qing stood proudly beside Long Houchen. He did not apologize to Long Houchen. What was the use of apologizing? The situation had already been created, and there was no way to make up for it. The only thing he wanted to do now was to sacrifice himself as much as possible to create an opportunity for Long Houchen and the others to escape. However, this was too difficult. The demons in front of him were so strong, especially the black-clothed youth. In the series of collisions, even if Tian Qing burned his life, he could only retreat in front of the black-clothed youth's offensive. Moreover, the black-clothed youth did not seem to have used his full strength. Abao did not even look at Tian Qing, the guardian knight with the highest cultivation among the 2 monster hunters. In his eyes, there was only Long Houchen. He could never forget the pain and blow that Long Houchen's sword gave him. "Long Houchen, did I call you by the wrong name?" Abao's cold voice was like a bone-chilling wind that stimulated the hearts of every demon hunter. There were a total of 60 strong demons, and there were as many as 6 of them at the 8th Order. In addition, there were more than 50 of them at the 7th Order. Even if there was an Overlord-tier monster hunters here, it would not be easy for them to break out. "I am Long Houchen." Striding out, Long Houchen calmly looked at Abao. If Abao at this time was a volcano that could erupt at any time, then Long Houchen at this time was a calm and deep ice lake. A human and a demon, their eyes collided in the air, and Long Houchen was not inferior. Abao narrowed his eyes and said, "The last time in the fantasy paradise, you left me a memory that is still fresh in my mind. You did not expect that we would meet again so soon, and in this kind of situation. I don't know if you still have the means to turn the tide this time." Long Houchen lightly said, "Why don't you try and you will know?" The strong smell of gunpowder instantly filled the air, and the experts on both sides were ready to attack at any time. Per abruptly laughed, loosened his clenched fists a bit and said, "Good, I have to admit that you can be regarded as an opponent of mine. Even though in fact, your power is not even comparable to mine, I am still willing to regard you as my enemy. You should feel honored." Long Houchen also smiled, and on his handsome and bright face, there was a trace of indifference and confidence. "Unfortunately, I have never regarded you as an opponent, unless, one day, you can inherit your father's position. In my eyes, there is only one opponent in this life, and that is him. You do not have the qualifications." Abao's complexion finally changed. In the situation of absolute superiority, he wanted to use words to humiliate Long Houchen, break his confidence, and then kill these people in one fell swoop, and thus regain the confidence that belonged to him. But who knew, not only did Long Houchen not fall for the trick, but he also made a false accusation. "With just you? You also want to challenge my father? Good, don't say that I did not give you a chance, one-on-one. If you win, I will let all of you go. Otherwise—" "No need to otherwise, come." Long Houchen took a big step forward. He did not even call Haoyue to fight with him. Haoyue's 4 big heads were already raised, and his eyes were staring at Long Houchen, but as if he had received some kind of instruction, he slowly lowered his head. "Long Houchen!" Tian Qing anxiously shouted. Long Houchen turned his head to look at him, and from Long Houchen's eyes, Tian Qing saw a determination. A strong sense of regret appeared in his heart, and something seemed to be stuck in his throat. Abao slowly raised his hand, and all the demons slowly retreated, leaving an empty space. Long Houchen turned to look at his companions. His eyes were no longer calm, but the content contained in his eyes was unusually rich. Among them, his eyes stayed on Kai for the longest time. "You guys also step back. Wait a minute." Tian Qing suddenly shouted, and with big steps, he arrived in front of Long Houchen. His right foot powerfully stamped on the ground, his right fist hit his chest, and he performed a standard knight's salute to Long Houchen. "Dear Long Houchen Knight, I request to temporarily exchange armor with you." Long Houchen was slightly surprised. "Brother Tian Qing." Whether it was the Mithril Foundation armor, the Gold Foundation armor, or the Throne of God, they were all regarded as the highest honor by a knight. In a knight's heart, they were even more important than their own lives. "Please allow it," Tian Qing firmly said. "Thank you." Long Houchen did not refuse again. He also put his right fist on his chest, and returned a standard knight's salute to Tian Qing. A faint golden light lit up on Tian Qing's body, and the originally seamless Mithril Foundation armor made a crisp sound. Then, the first thing that changed was the helmet. The helmet flipped backward, and then all the armor began to quickly roll down, and in a flash, it turned into a base, revealing Tian Qing's body. At this time, the corner of Tian Qing's mouth was full of blood, and his face was a bit pale, but his eyes were full of stubbornness and death. Stepping down from the Mithril Foundation armor, Tian Qing did not say anything, but retreated to the side and looked at Long Houchen. Long Houchen took off his own glorious armor, and subconsciously clenched his fists. The Mithril Foundation battle armor was a powerful legend that symbolized the glory of human knights. He was finally going to wear it for the first time. Even he didn't expect that he would be qualified to wear this battle armor so soon. To wear the Mithril Foundation armor, one needed to have a 7th stage cultivation. Although Long Houchen had not yet broken through, he had already reached the peak of the 6th stage. 2 days ago, his internal spiritual force had reached 10,000, and he had reached the bottleneck between the 6th stage and the 7th stage. With his incomparably pure light attribute spiritual power, Long Houchen was confident that he could control the armor. Tian Qing also had the same confidence in Long Houchen, so he was willing to give up his glory to increase Long Houchen's chances of winning. Although everyone knew that Long Houchen's chances of winning were infinitely close to 0 when facing a peak of the 8th stage with less than the 7th stage strength. However, Long Houchen stood up, and he had already accepted the challenge. As a knight, this was his glory, and no one could stop him. With one step, he came in front of the Mithril Foundation armor box. Long Houchen only felt that the blood in his body seemed to be boiling. When he sat on the Mithril Foundation armor, his pride, and endless fighting spirit were already monstrous. Silver light swept out from the silver box. First, a pair of leg guards extended forward, buckling Long Houchen's legs. Silver light popped out from below the leg guards, buckling his feet. Sitting down, silver light popped out from the back of his waist and thighs, wrapping his waist and thighs. As Long Houchen subconsciously stood up, the silver light flew up from below, and the sweet sound continued. In a total of a few breaths, the complete Mithril Foundation armor had covered Long Houchen's body. The same armor, when worn on Tianqing's body, and when worn on Long Houchen's body, had a completely different appearance. When the silver armor completely covered Long Houchen's body, on his chest, a rich golden light suddenly flashed, and then, this golden light quickly spread to the surroundings. In almost a few breaths' time, the original silver armor had completely turned gold, and a magnificent golden magic pattern shone on the armor. Even Long Houchen himself felt that at this moment, he was like a huge black hole, crazily devouring all the light elements in the air, and his spiritual aperture seemed to be perfectly integrated with the Mithril Foundation armor. This feeling was too wonderful, and it was different from any armor he had worn before. After wearing the Mithril Foundation armor, Long Houchen felt that he was wearing a piece of clothing, and not a piece of armor. Every part of his body was extremely flexible, and there was no restraint at all. Just by wearing this armor, he felt that his whole body was in the state of the body of glorious light. Legend: this was the legend of the Knights Templars. It was precisely because the Knights Templars spent thousands of years of accumulation and wisdom to create 365 sets of Mithril Foundation armor and 36 sets of Adamantine Foundation armor that they had the glory of sitting on the throne of the head of the 6 major temples. Just by wearing it, Long Houchen felt that his strength had increased by at least 20 to 30%, and this was under the premise that the Mithril Foundation armor brought him protection and increased agility. Long Houchen's entire body was shining with a golden light. He could feel that the Mithril Foundation battle armor seemed to be letting out light hums. Tianqing's heart was deeply moved. At the same time, he gradually understood why the black-clothed demon race youth had chosen him as his opponent instead of himself. He slowly raised the legendary heavy shield in his hand and handed it to Long Houchen. But to Tianqing's surprise, Long Houchen shook his head at him. "Brother Tianqing, in fact, have you forgotten that I am also a punishment knight?" After saying this, he handed his ripple of light to his left hand and strode towards a bow. Punishment knight? Tianqing's eyes became dull again. In a one-on-one battle, there was no doubt that the punishment knight was much stronger than the guardian knight. Yes, when he first met them, Long Houchen seemed to be using dual swords. "Are you ready?" A bow looked at Long Houchen, who stopped 10 meters in front of him. He did not stop Long Houchen from changing his armor. He wanted to defeat Long Houchen in his strongest state. Only then could he truly fulfill his wish. Long Houchen nodded slightly. "Come. You are a knight. Where is your mount?" A bow asked in a deep voice. Long Houchen shook his head and said, "Although you are my enemy, you have given me the opportunity to fight a fair battle. As a knight, even if my strength is far inferior to yours, I will not take advantage of you. This is a one-on-one battle between us." A bow smiled. There was a trace of undisguised admiration in his eyes. "Good. As expected of an opponent that I have taken a fancy to." A thick black light slowly rose, and the scales on his body were covered with a layer of purple. He raised his right hand, and a purplish-black light soared into the sky. A huge halo of light turned into a beam of light, and an incomparably fierce pressure spread out. All the demons revealed a trace of fear. It seemed that they were all afraid of this purplish-black light. The purplish-black light quickly condensed on a bow's right hand, and turned into a purplish-black heavy sword in his hand. Of course, Long Houchen knew what this purplish-black heavy sword was. It was Abao's own weapon, and it was also the weapon that he had defeated. It was the transformation of the heaven-defying demon dragon's horn. At the same time that Abao raised his right hand, Long Houchen also raised his right hand. A soft golden light instantly condensed, and slowly rose from his shining right hand. It seemed that the golden light was far less powerful than the purplish-black light. However, the moment it appeared, an indescribable light dispelled all the darkness around Long Houchen. He was wearing the Mithril Foundation armor. Originally, only the silver armor was emitting a rich golden light. However, the moment the aria of the Goddess of Light appeared in his right hand, the Mithril Foundation battle armor turned completely golden. Yiting quietly appeared behind Long Houchen. She just muttered a few incantations, and suddenly hugged Long Houchen from behind. The next moment she disappeared. Suddenly, the Mithril Foundation battle armor shone with a golden light and emitted an obvious buzzing sound. Almost terrifying spiritual power fluctuations suddenly erupted behind Long Houchen. At the same time, 2 pairs of spiritual wings instantly appeared behind Long Houchen, and at the same time, a layer of shadow appeared on the edge of each spiritual wing. Yes, Yiting had already integrated into the Mithril Foundation battle armor as a weapon spirit, and it gave Long Houchen an extreme boost. The aria of the Goddess of Light emitted a thick flame, and the holy fire of light naturally rose. In terms of overall momentum, he was actually not weaker than Abao. The pressure of the two people's auras collided with each other, and no one was actually able to gain the upper hand. The feeling that Long Houchen gave Abao was not that he was powerful, but pure. Abnormally pure. It was also this purity that allowed him to not be at a disadvantage in terms of momentum. At this moment, the battle began without warning. Long Houchen attacked first. Without using any skills, he slid and slashed forward. When the aria of the Goddess of Light drew a beautiful trajectory in the air, a strange scene appeared. In everyone's perception, Long Houchen seemed to have disappeared, and all that was left was the sword. When the sword slashed out, the sky changed color, as if it was slashing in the air. However, Abao actually let out a muffled grunt and took half a step back. He slid again, turned around, and slashed horizontally with the aria of the Goddess of Light. Long Houchen's movement did not seem fast at all, but it gave people a strange feeling of stickiness. As his opponent, Abao felt it the most. Long Houchen's first slash did indeed slash in the air, but it was also this slash that completely sealed all of Abao's attack routes. He also predicted Abao's next move. If Abao continued to complete his attack, then Long Houchen's first slash would definitely fall on him earlier. If it was someone else, even if they were using legendary equipment, Abao would not care at all. So what if he was slashed by the sword? The heaven-defying demon dragon clan's terrifying and powerful external spiritual power was not afraid of any attack at all. However, Long Houchen was different. His sword was like an antelope hanging its horn, untraceable, but it had the supreme sword intent of the unity of man and nature. In the face of such a sword, Abao had a strong sense of crisis. It seemed that if he was hit, he would definitely be seriously injured.